Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Pirates, I have unlimited skill points. Chapter 1. Wow. 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 The waves kept hitting the reef, and on the other side of the reef, a man was sitting on a huge reef, supporting his chin, staring blankly. The sea. But in fact, there was a picture in front of him at this time that only he could see. This is a character panel. People who have played RPG games must know this picture very well. This man is also quite familiar with this picture, because after all, he has watched this picture for 2 years. Character name, Luo Shu. Gender, male. Age, 21 years old. Hometown, East Blue Shimotsuki Village. Realm, swordsman. He is now the senior brother of Isshin Dojo in Shimotsuki Village. Looking at this extremely simple interface, Luo Shu sighed. After 2 years, this interface has not changed. After he closed this interface, he opened another interface called Skills. However, there are only 2 skills in the skill interface at this time, basic swordsmanship and sword drawing. And behind the 2 skills, there are also their levels, the basic swordsmanship level 5599, the drawing swordsmanship level 5599, and the skill point at the bottom of the skill panel is 999. Luo Shu tried it, no matter how you add it. Skills. His skill points will not change. This is also his biggest cheat in the world. Yes, his current level in this world is nowhere to be upgraded, so he will sit here, looking at the ocean in front of him, motionless. As for why he has risen to the limit, but he did not go to sea to break through his limit, it is because Big Brother, Zoro, he is going to sea. As Luo Shu was sitting here in a daze, a voice suddenly came from behind. Luo Shu looked back and found that it was one of the Isshin Dojo's disciple, just running over out of breath. Oh, Zoro is going to sea, so let him go out well. Luo Shu said without paying attention to his chin. Zoro, full name Roronoa Zoro, the second male in this world, he still watched the anime One Piece. After crossing over, he learned that he had crossed here. He is still very new to Zoro and Koshiro, but when he after getting used to this, I found that these 2 were just ordinary people. And when he easily defeated Zoro and got the position of Big Brother, he had no special heart for the protagonist. In the past 2 years, he would have abused Zoro 800 times without 1,000. If there is any special heart in this, unless he has a brain problem, he doesn't feel much when he hears that Zoro is going to sea now. At most I just think about it, Zoro is going to sea, the original plot should almost begin, but what if the plot begins? He couldn't leave this island. Yes, Luo Shu really can't leave this island now. Although he has already raised his skills to the limit and has already controlled all his power, he just can't leave. It's not a hardware problem, but whenever he leaves the island by boat, his heart hurts, and even faints. When he wakes up, he will reappear on the island where Shimotsuki Village is located. In the past, this kind of thing happened more than once. That's why Luo Shu is so boring now. He can't live without it. Ah, senior brother, but the master said that you can only go to sea after Zoro defeats you. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the man stammered. Beat me, haha, let him wait for the next life. With a disdainful smile, Luo Shu said plainly. Now Luo Shu's body is not too strong, but if you talk about it, the cultivation base on the sword, he can be said to be the strongest in this world. Basic swordsmanship corresponds to the practice of kendo. According to Luo Shu's understanding, basic swordsmanship breaks through LV10 and you can be called a swordsman. If you break through level 30, you can cut steel. If you break through level 50, you can be called a swordsman, because at this level, you can already release sword energy, and if you break through 80, you can be called a great swordsman. According to Luo Shu's understanding, his master Koshiro's level is about 89, which can already rank extremely high among the great swordsmen. The level of Hawkeye is probably around 95. As for Luo Shu, he is at full level, level 99. In other words, purely speaking of kendo, Luo Shu even wants to kill Hawkeye in seconds. But the problem is that a swordsman is more than just kendo. Physical strength, speed, endurance, physical strength, combat intelligence, etc., all need to be considered. But the problem is that on this small island, no matter how Luo Shu exercises, his Ru body level is always only the swordsman level, and it's over, so although he has supreme skills, he is at the end of the Ru body level. Normally, I can only stay here in a daze. Although Luo Shu's Ru body level can't be improved, if he doesn't fight in close combat, attacking with his sword aura from a long range, even if the top swordsman meets him, it is estimated that he will not be pleased. As for those who first entered Jianao, it is estimated that they will only be killed by a spike. It may be because of the system that Luo Shu's strength will not decrease without training, so he will be so leisurely. Master, please come over. Just as Luo Shu was at a loss for the first person to report, another disciple from the Ishin dojo also ran over, facing Luo with a serious face. Shu said, I heard that it was Koshiro who was looking for himself. Luo Shu still didn't support him. Let's not say that although Koshiro is not as good as himself in kendo, he is much stronger than Luo Shu. The name of a master and apprentice alone is enough to let him. Luo Shu is extremely respectful to Koshiro. You must know that in the past 2 years, I have been eating and drinking at Ishin dojo, but I haven't paid a penny, and Koshiro's caring for him is in his eyes. So when I heard that Koshiro was looking for himself, Luo Shu ran to the dojo and came to Koshiro's room. When Luo Shu sat down, Koshiro, who was wiping the knife, suddenly raised his head and looked at Luo Shu. Luo Shu, I know that your heart is not here. Although I really want to keep you to inherit the dojo, this is undoubtedly difficult for a strong man, so today, you can choose to leave. Round glasses revealed Koshiro with a smile his eyes, and what he said, made Luo Shu stunned and left. Nowadays. Master. Looking at Koshiro, Luo Shu opened his mouth to say something, but Koshiro waved his hand to stop it. You have to listen to its opinions. Looking at Luo Shu, Koshiro pointed to his own mouth. Ding. Complete the novice mission and leave the novice village. Please choose the camp. Currently available camps: Bounty Hunter recommended, Degree of Freedom plus 100%, Pirate Evil Degree plus 50, Marine Justice Degree plus 50. To be honest, Luo Shu, who left Shimotsuki village, was stunned. Since listening to Koshiro's words, he has been in a stunned state. He can't remember how he prepared the food, the chart, and then dragged it out. The boat prepared by yourself. By the time he reacted, he had already left Shimotsuki village and floated on the sea, and what awakened him was naturally the sound of the system in his mind. I have finally left the novice village. This level should also be improved. Luo Shu whispered, and looked at the dialogue box that popped up in front of him a little weirdly. He can understand the dialogue box, but what does this degree of freedom, evil, and justice mean? Just as Luo Shu was puzzled, a dialogue box popped up in front of him again, and what was displayed above was about the effect of this value. In fact, to put it plainly, this value has no effect. When the pirate's so-called evil degree is to make civilians afraid, it is more difficult to accept the task, while the justice value of Marine is easier to be accepted by the civilians and easier to accept the task, but the same if you see evil things and don't do it, then you will also fall away. As for the degree of freedom of the bounty hunter, as the name suggests, it is quite free, as the old saying goes, I wait for my life to be free, who dares to be high. Bounty hunters may mean this. They neither belong to Marine nor pirates, but obviously, Luo Shu does not have this idea. Luo Shu is not a dumbfounded person, his head is fierce. Before he crossed, he was actually a 30-year-old prospective uncle. He was not a killer with an ordinary life, an ordinary career, an ordinary family, and ordinary everything. He is not a special soldier. His profession is in the IT industry. The main task is to debug in the game company, which means to remove the bug in the game. Before crossing, he just added a week's shift in the company. His main job is to detect and remove bugs in the game. Yes, the familiar interface in front of him at this time is exactly the interface they used to develop the game. As a result, after he packaged the game and sent it to the later stage, he found a meeting room and fell asleep, and waited until he woke up. He has already appeared in Shimotsuki village. Modern society has smoothed his froze, so that he cannot have such crazy blood on his head. Someone has said that freedom is definitely the most important thing when you come to the world of One Piece, so if you don't choose a bounty hunter, you have to choose a pirate, but Luo Shu doesn't think so. Because whether it's a bounty hunter or a pirate, he doesn't have any prejudice against any camp, whether it's a pirate, marine, or a bounty hunter. He doesn't have a clear goal, but he knows these two. This faction has no inheritance. Luo Shu has long wanted to talk about the idea of going back to the real world after breaking through the game. Because he designed a MMORPG game, that is, a massively multiplayer online game. There is no clearance for this game. Just like Warcraft, can I still play the arena after graduation? Well, can you still earn points on the battlefield? So there is no such thing as breaking through. That being the case, it really doesn't make much sense for him to find any NPC. So being a pirate doesn't make much sense. The root of his life in this world is his system. To be exact, it should be his 999 skill points that will not decrease no matter how much he adds. What camp can allow him to quickly acquire skills, so that he can quickly become stronger? Marine. Think about the original world. Do pirates and bounty hunters have skills to teach? All skills have to be understood and learned on their own, but it is obvious that Luo Shu does not have such strength now, so finding a place to learn skills is the most important thing. After confirming his inner thoughts, Luo Shu clicked on the marine option, but unfortunately, there was still no response. It seemed that this game just prompted Luo Shu to choose a camp, and did not have the ability to help Luo Shu choose. Find a marine branch to join marine. Or go to the headquarters. Seeing that there is no way to directly elect, it should be the same as when he first came to the Ishin Dojo. He needs to go to join the army in person, but if you go to join the army yourself, there is another problem. That's the question of where to join the army. Marine branches are everywhere. If he wants to join the army, he can go directly to a marine branch to join the army. However, joining the army like this will not bring him skills. Marine calls them skills, which are probably 6 types in hockey. System training methods and the like. But the marine branch, especially East Blue, how could there be any kind of skills such as 6 types, but if you go to the headquarters it is also very troublesome. Because the headquarters is in the middle of the Grand Line, he needs to advance to the Grand Line, and then sail all the way to the headquarters to join the army. This is too troublesome. Luo Shu's current strength is probably about the same as Zoro's hard power when he played Sky Island. Of course, if he is far away to release his sword spirit, then Hawkeye may not be his opponent. But if you enter the Grand Line, it's dangerous or something, it's really a bit inaccurate. It's not another manifestation of Frozen 2 King, or it is beginning to be afraid of death. Luo Shu is also the same. Like ordinary people, he is afraid of death, pain, hard work, and trouble. So he always feels bad when he goes directly to the headquarters, but he goes to the branch and slowly goes to the headquarters. Well, wait until he enters the headquarters. Maybe Luffy has become the One Piece. It's not okay, it's really troublesome. After scratching his head, Luo Shu said a little helplessly, sometimes thinking too much, that's it, it's very troublesome. Far inferior to a tendon like Luffy, staring blankly, and iron-headed baby, just rushing forward, but because of his character, it is difficult to do this, and it is really troublesome. Boom 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 boom. Just as Luo Shu was floating on the sea and thinking about how to join marine quickly, suddenly a burst of artillery fire came from a distance. Luo Shu looked back and saw that there were 2 ships chasing each other in the distance. The one running in front should be a pirate ship, a wooden ship, plus the current one. The wind is not small, making it run fast, and it looks like a marine ship is chasing after it. Luo Shu's system comes with a scouting eye, which means you can see the opponent's situation. However, there are restrictions. At least he has to see the opponent's face to know the situation of the opponent. Just when he was puzzled, the pirate ship in front had already driven near him, and he could see clearly the situation of the man standing on the bow. Philemon Occam, the pirate, the leader of the Iron Fist pirate group, bounty 13 million Pele, evil value, 3,521. Looking at the loyal man on the bow, his information was also displayed on his head. Luo Shu frowned when he saw this evil value. After becoming a pirate, this evil value is actually about the same as prestige. Every time you do a bad thing, you will increase the evil value according to the degree of the bad thing. Do good deeds without diminishing, and do bad deeds with increasing. According to what the system says, killing a civilian will probably get 3 points of evil. This guy, in addition to the 50 evil points when he chose the camp, now has more than 3,500 evil points. In other words, he killed at least 1,000 people, 1,000 people, this is in this world, almost it's the population of a small town. This man is really a well-deserved pirate. Boss, there is a small boat ahead. When Luo Shu was observing the boat, the people on the boat also saw him. The people watching in front immediately turned around and looked at the man standing on the bow of the boat, that is, Philip. Mon Occam shouted loudly. Crash directly, we must escape as fast as possible. The guy behind is the marine hero. We must not fall into his hands. Hearing the words of his men, the man yelled loudly and heard the man. What he said, his subordinates didn't adjust their direction either, they ran into Luo Shu directly. At this time, looking at the pirate ship getting closer and closer to him, Luo Shu sighed and got up from his boat. Isn't it good to be alive? Have to come here to die. Originally, if the pirate ship bypassed himself and left like this, he might not care about this nosy, but now that it has collided with it, let's be conscious of death. A knife is absolutely empty. Looking at the pirate ship getting closer, Luo Shu took a deep breath and calmed himself down. After that, the knife beside him was already pulled out, and Luo Shu flicked it in an instant. His saber directly drew a perfect arc, and the sword energy covering the saber was directly thrown by Luo Shu. Suddenly, a giant sword energy that could almost split the sea flew towards the pirate ship in front. The pirates on the pirate ship had not yet come to respond, and the sword energy had already given the pirate ship instantly. One was divided into two, and after the pirate ship was solved, the sword energy still did not disappear, but directly rushed towards the marine battleship that was chasing behind. In fact, because Marine's battleship was far away, they had a chance to get out of the way when they turned the rudder, but this ship did not. Because a sturdy old man wearing a dog head hat has slowly walked to the bow of the boat. Drink. Seeing that sword chi attacked, the old man suddenly jumped into the air. It was very counterintuitive. He used force again in the air and suddenly rushed towards that sword chi, with the pitch-black right hand. A fist hit the huge sword chi directly. Choke. With a sound of an iron fist and a sword strike, they fought a match in the air, sparks flew everywhere, and at this time, everyone on the boat who was originally calm couldn't help but open their eyes wide in surprise. The strength of this sword aura. It's an eagle eye. The adjutant on the ship couldn't help muttering as he watched the stalemate in the air. And after hearing this person's words, other people couldn't help but their pupils stood up. Could it really be the Hawkeye Dracul Mahawk, who is known as the world's #1 swordsman? Break it for me. At this moment, the old man in the air suddenly yelled, and another punch hit the sword energy directly from the side. Both sides were blocked, and the sword energy finally reached its limit. With 2 clicks, the sword energy was instantly covered with countless cracks, and then with a snap, it broke apart and disappeared between the heaven and the earth. The old man also fell from the air and jumped back onto the battleship, his face full of surprise. Hawkeye boy, I didn't expect your swordsmanship to improve again, wow ha 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 ha. However, this expression only appeared for a moment and then disappeared, and then he dug his nostrils without an image, and shouted at the other side of the sea, "Road." At this time, the pirate ship that had been divided into 2 halves had completely sunk into the water, and the warship had also arrived around the wreckage, but when they saw the man on the other side of the pirate ship who was collecting the sword, everyone on the ship was stunned. Because that person is not the eagle eye they imagined, is there still someone in this world who can be like an eagle eye, throwing out this kind of sword aura? This is very unreasonable. For a while, the people on the battleship looked at each other. Even the old man standing on the bow of the ship stopped picking his nose and looked at the people on the boat with surprise. Bogart, can you please catch these pirates for me? I'll go see this kid. After commanding the adjutant, the old man stepped on his feet and flew directly out of the distance of the wreckage of the ship. Came to the sky above the Luo Shu boat, and then fell straight down. Logically speaking, if this person did this, Luo Shu's attack on him is understandable, but Luo Shu didn't do it. Instead, he looked at him curiously, because he also knew this person. Monkey D. Garp, Marine Hero, opponent of One Piece, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Luo Shu never thought that he would encounter Garp here. However, it is understandable after thinking about it, it should be that Garp just finished his love education for Luffy and ready to return. I have to say that sometimes it is really clever. Wow ha 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 ha, boy, you made the slash just now. What is your name? Looking at Luo Shu's face, Garp began to poke his nostrils again, looking at Luo Shu with interest. My name is Luo Shu, Garp Vice Admiral, hello. Looking at Garp in front of him, Luo Shu took the knife back and nodded towards him. Hey, Luo Shu, haven't heard of it, are you just going out to sea? Look at your ship, how about it, do you want to join Marine? Garp said with a grin when he heard what Luo Shu said. In fact, he is also a routine question, such a strong swordsman, it is estimated that he is very arrogant, should not join any pirate group or Marine. Okay, but such common sense can't be used in Luo Shu's hands. He just wants to join Marine to learn skills. Now with Garp's recommendation, it seems that it's much easier. I know, it's impossible for a young master like you to, hey. Did you agree? When he heard Luo Shu's words, Garp subconsciously said it, but after half he said it suddenly realized, it seems that Luo Shu is talking about, okay. Put these awful from the sea in jail. After arriving in Loguetown, throw them directly at the smoker boy. Hey, Luo boy, your physical fitness needs to be exercised. Although you have amazing sword skills, your body it's Ben Chang. Sitting on the deck of the warship, Garp looked at Luo Shu who was practicing squats next to him, and said with a smile. Hey, old man, I just helped you solve a pirate group, wouldn't you say something nice? Hearing Garp's words, Luo Shu gave him a blank look before continuing to squat. This is already Luo Shu's third day on the Garp ship. Since Luo Shu agreed to join Marine, he has boarded Garp's ship that day. Garp's ship sailed directly to naval headquarters. Of course, the necessary supplies have to be obtained. After they are supplied in Loguetown, they will enter the comm belt, follow the red line, and drive directly back to naval headquarters. After knowing Garp's route, Luo Shu asked Garp to teach him how to exercise. Originally, Garp thought that Luo Shu really could be compared with Eagle Eye. But after they had a fight on a desert island, he realized that this was not the case. If the two were far apart, even if he faced Luo Shu, he would feel quite tricky, because his slash was indeed it's too strong, even stronger than Hawkeye. But if there is a close fight, Luo Shu has only one move, slashing with the sword. This is also what he remembers as the killer of the male protagonist in an anime that he had seen when he was young. The only skill he has developed in the past 2 years is this. If he is close, his sword is extremely powerful. Even if Garp left a scar on his arm, he retreats embarrassedly, but he draws the sword and cuts with more than one sword. Then Garp gets close and Luo Shu does that. Only the physical fitness of the swordsman is over. And Garp also discovered the weak physical quality behind Luo Shu's powerful swordsmanship. So after bringing him to the boat, he began to teach Luo Shu to exercise. In fact, with Luo Shu's current physical fitness, it is barely possible to practice the 6 forms. But the cultivation of the 6 forms really has a lot to do with the foundation. Why are all CP9 members, all skilled masters wielding 6 forms? Khalifa has only 630 power, while Lucci has 4000. This is the fundamental difference in the body. It is not that Luo Shu is lazy. He has been exercising for the past 2 years, but the problem is that he has not been out of the novice village. His body has reached the ultimate after a swordsman. No amount of exercise is useful. He officially boarded Garp's ship. After joining Marine, he felt his physical potential opened up again. Although he had only exercised for 3 days, he really felt that his body was slowly getting stronger, and during these 3 days, Garp did not let him idle. In addition to training, if he encounters a pirate ship, he will be asked to slash it. Compared to cannonballs, it is obvious that Luo Shu's slash is the real big killer above the sea. His slashing speed is extremely fast, and extremely accurate. Directly with a sword, the pirate ship will be divided into 2, it is really quite easy. Garp is quite satisfied with such coolies. Ha 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 ha, Luo boy, you should exercise well, for blood, for tomorrow, for justice, come and dedicate your youth. Hearing Luo Shu's complaints, Garp also laughed up to the sky, looking at him. This time I set sail was really worthwhile, and I actually got a super master to go back. In fact, with Luo Shu's current long-range strength, it is no problem for him to be a vice admiral. Of course, he is still a private. Marine is not a pirate. This needs to be done slowly. Fortunately, Luo Shu doesn't care what official title he is. The only thing he cares about is whether he can learn the 6 forms after returning to naval headquarters. In this way, during the exercise, 2 more days passed. When only about 1/3 of the supplies on the Garp Vice Admiral ship were left, they came to this supply point, Loguetown. Loguetown is called the town of beginning and end, mainly because the One Piece King Gordy Roger is here. He started from here, and then died here. Compared to the entrances of the other 3 seas into the Grand Line, Loguetown is undoubtedly much more peaceful. One is because East Blue itself is strictly controlled. It is possible to reward 30 million Baileys for pirates here. It is said that East Blue is the overlord, and such bounty, North Blue and West Blue near the second half of the Grand Line, can only be regarded as the upper midstream. There are even pirates in their place. Before entering the Grand Line, they have already reached hundreds of millions of rewards. Of course, such pirates are also rare. It may not be 1 in 10 years. And the east of the first half of the Grand Line Blue and South Blue are much more peaceful. If the map of the world is spread out, it will probably be in the shape of a field. The horizontal line of the cross in the middle is the Grand Line, the vertical line is the Red Line, and the 4 squares next to it are the 4 seas. The upper right is East Blue, the lower is South Blue, the upper left is North Blue, and the lower is West Blue. Of course, the approximate position is like this, but if you want to look closely, the field character has to stand upside down. In addition to the fact that East Blue itself is a symbol of peace and strictly controlled, the reason why Loguetown is so quiet is also related to the officers stationed here. The person stationed in Loguetown is Smoker. This guy is the ability of Logia Smoke Fruit, Armament Hockey. This thing is very strange in the first half of the Grand Line, let alone in the 4 seas, without Armament Hockey, unless the fruit attributes are restrained, such as Ace's Huoke Yan, it is impossible to defeat Smoker. Even if the strength is higher than him, it won't work, so in this situation, Smoker really caught a lot of people here, so that now there are fewer and fewer pirates who want to run to the Grand Line. When Garp's ship went leaning against Loguetown, Garp Vice Admiral also took everyone off the boat, but the one who greeted him was Sergeant Dasichi, the little girl who looked like Kuina, but Luo Shu had not seen Kuina, he was only 2 years ago. Yes, and Kuina is said to have been dead for 6 years. So Luo Shu didn't know what Kuina looked like, and he had to deliver the pirates he caught. Under the nervous guidance of this little girl, Luo Shu followed Garp into the marine branch of Loguetown, but when they were about to enter the branch, suddenly a cloud of smoke floated from a distance, directly towards Garp and rushed over. Feeling the existence of this smoke, Luo Shu, who was standing next to Garp, suddenly pulled out and slashed towards the smoke. Ding! With a crisp sound, tens of hands rested on Luo Shu's knife, but everyone on the Garp Vice Admiral was not surprised. After a miss, the 10-handed master did not rest and continued to turn into a smoke attack, but at this time his attack target had become Luo Shu. And Luo Shu is also happy to play with him. After all, he hasn't played with any master before. In Isshin Dojo, Koshiro is too familiar with him, and his weakness is too obvious, so there is no way to play with Koshiro. Garp is the same. And all the pirate ships that he encountered along the way were destroyed directly by a single sword, so he really hadn't passed by close fights with powerful characters. Although Smoker is definitely not that good, it is good to let Luo Shu practice recruiting. In recent days, his physical fitness has been significantly improved, and those basic sword moves under one of his drills, at least in close combat, are not as weak as they were at the beginning. Between the lightning and the fire, the two have fought more than 10 times. Luo Shu deliberately did not use sword energy, and Smoker gradually became careless. After all, it seemed to him that Luo Shu didn't seem to be a person who could use hockey. During this close combat, he suddenly ignored Luo Shu's attack and clicked on Luo Shu with 10 hands. But at this moment, Luo Shu's saber in his hand suddenly flicked, a sword aura. Seeing that sword chi flicked, Smoker felt bad. Sword aura, called slash in this world, is the same as armament hockey. It will cause some damage to Logia, although it is not as bad as armament hockey. But it will definitely not be small. Now that the distance between the two is so close, it is too late to get out of the way. After all, he is Smoke Fruit, and Smoke Fruit is not the usual speed. So Smoker can only recover 10 hands and prepare to take the blow. But at this moment, suddenly a dark hand stretched over, grabbed his clothes and threw him out directly, and although this threw him not lightly, it escaped the chop. He took a look at Garp, who was still throwing it out. Luo Shu also took the knife back, because he knew that the farce was over. "Who are you?" The smoke slowly drifted into the distance. As the smoke condensed, a white-headed man smoking a cigar appeared in front of Luo Shu and the others. After saluting Garp, he said. Looking at Luo Shu curiously, he said. Ha 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 ha, smoker boy, this is my newly recruited soldier, Luo Shu, how about it? Suppress it. Looking at Smoker's serious look, Garp couldn't help laughing, and said while smiling. Garp and Smoker know each other. After all, Smoker used to be Zephyr's apprentice and spent so long in naval headquarters. This guy has a stinky and hard temper, but Garp looks very right, so between them the relationship is closer than imagined. Cut, this kid is so strong, surely he is not a spy. Smoker sneered at Zui disdainfully, and said as Smoker was holding the snow in his mouth. Ha 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 ha, the character of this kid can still be guaranteed, until it's you. How long are you going to stay in this place? You are not the one who is nesting here. After cutting his nose, Garp said with a smile. Cut, get the supplies and go quickly. But I don't know if Smoker's sadness has been caused. After Smoker heard Garp's words, there was a moment of helplessness in his eyes. After all, he is Logia's ability and his own strength. Not weak, if it wasn't for his stinky and hard character, he wouldn't be accommodated in this small place like Loguetown. Although this is a good thing for the residents of Loguetown, it is a loss for Marine, but if it is like those people compromise in order to leave here, it is not what he will do. After speaking, Smoker left directly, and Garp also smiled and went to the warehouse, preparing to direct the Marines to move supplies. As for Luo Shu, although he is still a private soldier, his strength lies there. He doesn't need to do these things. And Da Sichi looked at Luo Shu from a distance. To be honest, she is also a swordsman, so she has a good impression of people who use swords, and Luo Shu, a man who looks not much older than her, can release his sword. And can defeat Smoker. This is really a very magical thing. She really wants to ask Luo Shu how to cultivate. But unfortunately, in the end, she didn't bring up the courage, so she could only watch Luo Shu silently, and they returned to the ship after moving the supplies. As for Luo Shu, he doesn't know observation hockey yet. He naturally didn't know that a girl was watching him silently. If he knew it, I wouldn't care about it. After all, his heart is 30-year-old old man, those isn't anyone like me. She sees me being interesting to me. Such young thoughts have long since disappeared with age. Now if a beautiful woman stares at him, it is probably the first thing he thinks of is whether there is something dirty on his face. Luo Shu, they were in Loguetown. They just came in such a hurry, and then they left in a hurry. After passing Loguetown, Luo Shu also entered the state of training again, and after a day of sailing, the ship also officially entered the calm belt. Now they only need to walk along the red line, and they can reach naval headquarters in a few days. If they walk along the Grand Line, it is unlikely that there will be less than half a year. It may be because of the installation of Seastone relation. The ship was also safe when traveling in the calm belt. Except that Luo Shu had seen some sea kings that only existed in the legend before jumping out of the water, the road was calm and calm. After passing through the calm belt, Luo Shu's forward speed also increased again. After sailing for another 3 days, they also followed the red line all the way towards naval headquarters. And this morning, when Luo Shu woke up and was about to start a new day of exercise, a huge gate with justice written on it appeared in Luo Shu's line of sight. Just as Luo Shu was fascinated by it, the huge door opened slowly. As the water flowed, the warship Luo Shu was sitting on, like an adult's toy, entered the huge door. Behind the gate, there is a world of surprise. Looking at the prosperous town in the distance and the magnificent naval headquarters, Luo Shu wowed from the heart. Luo Shu is very clear about the technological level of this era. It is really not an easy task to build such a naval headquarters, and this naval headquarters, it seems that it is really not general and imposing. Ha 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 ha, Luo Shaozi will go with me to see Sengoku, and the others will disband on the spot. As the battleship slowly approached the pier, Garp also strode off the ship, and then turned to his back. The people talked about it. Hearing Garp's words, the others left under the command of Garp's adjutant Bogard, while Luo Shu followed Garp towards the marine building not far away, the soldiers at the door and so on. Naturally he would not stop Garp. Let Garp easily lead Luo Shu into this magnificent naval headquarters. Riding the elevator, they went directly to the most office area, and then Garp came to the front of an office in the office area. Luo Shu saw it clearly. It said, Marshal's office. Bang! But Garp never took the Marshal, that is, Sengoku, seriously, and kicked the door open. Ha 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 ha, Sengoku, I'm back. Hurry up and invite me to eat senbei. After kicking the door open, Garp swaggered in and sat down on the sofa next to him, then he laughed. However, Luo Shu did not follow in. Instead, he stood outside and looked at the situation inside the house. At this time, in this room, besides Garp, there were 5 people and a goat sitting there, and the explosion exploded. Head, it should be Sengoku, the current Marine Marshal Buddha, that goat is his pet, and besides him, there are 3 people. The middle-aged man in a red suit and a marine hat sitting there pretending to be cool should be Akainu, with a wretched look, and Kizaru with a curled hair. The last one leaning against the wall seems to sleep at any time. The guy who is watching should be naive. In addition to the 3 of them, there is an old man here with purple hair and a huge machine on his arm. This old man Luo Shu also remembers that it should be the chief commander of Neo Marine, Zephyr in the theater version, but he shouldn't betray Marine yet. Luo Shu from the outside saw it really, and the atmosphere inside the house at this time can be said to be very strange. However, with Garp's arrival, the original strange atmosphere has changed a little at this time. Everyone's eyes have passed Garp and looked at Luo Shu at the door. Garp, is this the swordsman genius you are talking about? Looking at Luo Shu standing outside the door, Sengoku took a deep breath, temporarily suppressed the unhappiness in his heart, and looked up at Luo Shu. Yes, his swordsmanship is comparable to Hawkeye. Hearing Sengoku's words, Garp picked up a few senbei that Sengoku had placed on the table, and ate it and said with a smile. After hearing Garp's words, the other 4 people looked at Luo Shu with some curiosity. Because from their perspective, it is really hard to see that Luo Shu has such strength. In fact, it is understandable when thinking about it. In this world, it is actually very intuitive to see the strength of people. Although Luo Shu's body has slowly started to grow stronger recently, he does not look like a strong body. Although some powerhouses can't be seen, such as Luo Shu and Zoro's master, Koshiro, he is a powerhouse who can't see his strength, but Luo Shu really can't feel it. But it was Garp who said it, and they had to believe it. We will have a chance to confirm in the future, will Luo Shu? Taking a deep breath, Sengoku looked at Luo Shu and said. Yes. With simple Shuang legs standing side by side, Luo Shu looked at Sengoku. Although your strength has been recognized by Garp, we are Marine, organized and disciplined, so I can't directly give you too high a title. Since you decide to join Marine, you need to start from scratch. This way back, according to Garp's words, you destroyed or captured 4 pirate groups in total, with a total reward of 41.8 million Baileys. Now I specially grant you the rank of ensign. Do you have any objections? Looking at Luo Shu, Sengoku said plainly. In fact, he is talking to Luo Shu now, and he is also testing Luo Shu. Marines are different from pirates or bounty hunters. They are actually running dogs of the world government. Running dogs can have their own ideas and can be smart, but one thing is that they must not be too irritable. If you want to defect, Marine is really difficult to do, so Sengoku said to Luo Shu like this. Yes, there is nothing wrong with the rank, but I hope I can arrange a house for me, and I can learn more powerful moves. Hearing Sengoku's words, Luo Shu didn't care about it. The rank is for him, it makes no sense. However, having a good place to live and learning new skills is the top priority and the most fundamental reason for him to join Marine. This is no problem. Ensign, the headquarters of the sea country, will have a set of allocated houses locally. As for the learning matter, Zephyr, leave it to you. As for what you just said, I still hope you can consider it. After all, Shichibukai, the matter of the world government, said, we have nothing to do. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Sengoku nodded in response to his words, then looked at Zephyr, and then sighed helplessly. This thing is indeed very troublesome. Sengoku, hope, this won't be our last conversation, kid, come with me. The purple-haired Zephyr took a deep look at Sengoku, then turned and left, and when he left, he naturally called Luo Shu. Luo Shu didn't say much, and left directly with Zephyr. I hope this old man, don't do anything wrong, you 3, go out, and Garp, stop eating my senbei. Looking at Zephyr's back, Sengoku sighed, and then faced the others in the house. The four of them also roared. As for Luoshu here, after Zephyr left Naval Headquarters with Zephyr, Zephyr first took Luoshu to the back logistics department. In fact, it is said that Ensign of Naval Headquarters will share a set of own houses, but in fact, it is the same as the previous state-owned enterprise. It's the same as dividing the house. In fact, you have to line up and wait. But when Zephyr brought Luoshu, there was no need to wait. Garp Vice Admiral brought it back, and Zephyr, who was enjoying the Admiral treatment, brought Luoshu. Is there a harder backstage for the entire base? The Natural Logistics Department is quite talkative. Although a small two-story villa is not big, it is only about 200 square meters, but it is directly handed over to Luoshu. Including Luoshu's clothes, food, and first month's salary, all were given to Luoshu. Holding this pile of things, Luoshu followed Zephyr back to his home. However, Zephyr didn't go in just as soon as the door was opened. Instead, he stood at the door and looked at Luoshu. Boy, remember, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, the 7th training ground. If you are late, then you please be smart. After Zephyr finished speaking, he left without giving Luoshu a chance to reply, and Luoshu also shrugged. He had met the weird old man more than once, so it didn't matter. Wow, the treatment of Marine is really good, but the money is less. Walking into the room, Luoshu looked at this fully furnished house. Luoshu couldn't help but shine, and then said with a smile. Up. But looking at the 200,000 Bailey in his hand, well, when Marine's income is definitely not as high as a pirate, but 200,000, it should be enough to eat and drink. Oh yes, don't worry about eating, Marine also takes care of the food. As for the clothes, Marine also wears. 200,000 Baileys is approximately equal to the 200,000 island currency of Luoshu's previous life. The ratio of the soft sister currency to the island currency is more than 1 to 17. This 200,000 is equivalent to more than 10,000 points of soft sister currency. But the prices of island countries are the same as those of the world, and they are very expensive. So the 200,000 yuan is really not a lot of money. After finishing everything up, Luoshu took a closer look at his new home. Generally speaking, he was satisfied. After going to the nearby marine cafeteria for a meal, he went home and took a wash. After taking a bath, I will start training tomorrow. At 7 o'clock the next day, Luoshu took his saber and left home. But when he went downstairs, he suddenly found that a house next to him also happened to be someone coming out. The house next to him was much larger than his, at least about 500 square meters. Coming out of the house is a woman. The world of One Piece is very weird, probably because of too many races, so the height of the people here is generally a little scary. For example, Qingzi, they all have more than 2 meters, and a woman's height, 1.9 meters, can only be regarded as a standard line, and they have to wear high heels. And this woman is almost 1.9 meters tall, plus high heels, she is nearly 2 meters tall. Although this woman just glanced at it, she has to admit that she is still beautiful, with a pair of slender and straight thighs. It is really attractive. There is a spider tattoo on the right leg, and a long knife in his hand. When Luoshu saw her, she also saw Luoshu, but she didn't pay attention to Luoshu, what an ensign had to care about, instead she just walked away. And Luoshu just looked at her back with admiration, and then rushed to the training ground number 7 that had been inquired about yesterday. It was 7:45 when he arrived at the training ground on the 7th, but at this time there are already a lot of people training here. Most of them are doing physical training, load-bearing running, horizontal bars, parallel bars. Basic training such as squats and squats are everywhere on this court. There are also some people who are training their fruit abilities or sword skills. When Luoshu walked in, many people inside looked at him, but after a glance, they continued to do what they should do. Luoshu glanced at everyone on the court and began to stretch. 15 minutes passed quickly. Not long after, a few people came over, but there was no Zephyr who Luoshu saw yesterday. The leader was a man in ninja costume with thick lip and long lips. Quite wretched and ugly. Okay, all are there, gather. As he walked to the middle of the training ground, he also yelled loudly. As his voice fell, the Marines over there immediately gathered and formed quickly. A phalanx. Luo Shu walked to the side of the square without hurries and stood there. Boy, who are you? Did you go wrong? Looking at Luo Shu, the man looked at him, and then asked suspiciously. No, I did not go wrong. Mr. Zephyr called me over. My name is Luo Shu. Luo Shu smiled plainly and introduced himself. Luo Shu. Oh, is that the one who came back with Garp Vice Admiral? Ensign, I heard that your slash can be compared to an eagle eye. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the man couldn't help but said with a bitter expression. When he heard what he said, everyone else laughed. Can be compared to an eagle eye. Ensign, well, I don't know if this is an insult to Hawkeye or an insult to Marine, but obviously, these people now don't believe Garp's evaluation of Luo Shu. Luo Shu can only shake helplessly for the laughter of these people. Shook his head. He never thought that he had any protagonist fate. He had never won more than 30 yuan in scratch cards when he bought lottery tickets from a young age. There will be noble people to help. In addition, he is very afraid of trouble. He is not here to gain the trust of others, and then step by step to the plot of Hejiawan. He came here just to learn skills, so if these people's ridicule prevents him from learning skills smoothly, then he has to find a way to keep them shut. It's definitely impossible to kill people here, but it shocked them that they couldn't close their minds, but that's not a problem, so in the midst of the thick lips and other ridicules, Luo Shu pulled out his saber. It is an ordinary steel knife in Ishin Dojo. Even when he pulled the knife out, some people were laughing at his knife. But when his knife was swung down, these people knew that they were wrong, it was wrong. With a soft sound of swipe, Luo Shu's knife slashed directly, and Luo Shu instantly threw a huge half-moon slash from the knife. That huge slash not only directly divided the training ground into two, but also directly broke through the wall thousands of meters away and rushed into the sea. The slash had been flying for almost 3 or 5 kilometers before it slowly dissipated. At this time, everyone looked up and found that the thick clouds that had accumulated in the sky in the morning were actually caused by the blow was split. In terms of slashing alone, I think my slashing might not be worse than that of Hawkeye. Luo Shu said flatly while slowly retracting the knife. After hearing Luo Shu's words, the others looked at each other, then swallowed a pinch of saliva, and looked straight ahead. I have to admit that Luo Shu's trick is much more direct and effective than loving each other or brothers and sisters, at least now they dare not find other voices. Ahem. Ensign, enter the list, let's do basic physical training first. Including the thick lip, he didn't know what to say at this time, so he could only cough awkwardly and then loudly. Said to everyone. His slash may be stronger than Hawkeye's. At this time, Zephyr and Garp stood here on the roof of a large building in Marine. They were watching everything that happened on the training ground just now. Here, Zephyr was also very surprised by Luo Shu's slash. Originally, he thought that the person Garp introduced had an eagle-eyed slash, which was just a proper exaggeration. After all, at Luo Shu's age, he could slash out, which means he could be a swordsman. This can be regarded as a genius master. After all, if there is such a strength, it seems to Zephyr that Luo Shu will not be able to accept an ensign rank. At least he will have to be a colonel or commodore to be possible. But now after he saw Luo Shu's slash, he knew he was wrong. This guy, if he really counts, can even be a vice admiral. Ha 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 ha, are you kidding me as a laborer? He is the strongest kid I have ever seen. While eating senbei, Garp whispered while looking at the direction where the slash was disappearing in the distance. Even if he dealt with it, it was quite difficult. Then I don't understand, what do you want him to learn from me? Hearing Garp's words, Zephyr looked at Garp suspiciously. Shouldn't such a person directly give him a boat and let him go to sea? After all, Marine does not have a political and ideological department, and needs to come in for ideological education in advance. With such strength, it is still a good thing to learn. Don't look at this kid slashing very strong. In fact, his physical fitness is not bad for his age, but in fact it is still very weak. I think he knows this too, so he entered Marine. Looking at Luo Shu who started training with everyone, Garp said seriously, and after hearing Garp's words, Zephyr's face became more solemn. Aren't you afraid to teach another, dragon? Looking at Garp, Zephyr didn't give him face, but directly said Garp's most heartbroken thing. I believe he won't. After taking another bite of the senbei, Garp said seriously. Luo Shu at this time naturally didn't know what Garp and Zephyr were talking about. He was just following these people for training, but it turns out that the training of the big group is not suitable for him. The training in the morning was over. Everyone was sweating profusely. Although Luo Shu sweated a lot, it was far from exhausting. After going for lunch at noon, he has already slowed down. The training in the afternoon continued, but the main training subjects have been replaced by other categories, such as sniper, fighting, swordsmanship, fruit power and so on. Only Luo Shu and a few physical training buddies are still undergoing physical training. But even so, he is, after all, someone with the physical fitness of a swordsman. Imagine that Zoro of Sky Island would lose to some marine soldiers in physical strength. Luo Shu is at least unimaginable. His stamina has just consumed 1/3, and the afternoon has passed. To be honest, the amount of training here may not be as good as Garp's boat. Just when Luo Shu was about to train for a few more days, he went to see Zephyr to see if he could turn on the stove. After dinner, Luo Shu ran into Zephyr in front of the cafeteria. "Tomorrow, you will go to the training ground on the 9th with me." Looking at Luo Shu, Zephyr said very seriously, and when he heard Zephyr's words, Luo Shu also reacted, and immediately saluted and said yes. It seems that Zephyr has also noticed that he does not belong to this training camp anymore. After returning home for a good rest, Luo Shu went to the 9th training ground early the next morning. In One Piece's world, the population is 3 billion people according to world government statistics. Of course, the level of science and technology in this world cannot be too accurate, but 3 billion is about the same, and the world government has the world government. The total strength of the army, plus marine, is about 13 million. Among them, because of the many islands in the world, the number of marines is as high as 8 million, scattered all over the sea. Marine headquarters has 400,000 marines, plus marines' family members, the total number may reach 1.3 million. 400,000 marines are stationed here, so the training ground is naturally a lot. There are a total of 32 training grounds here, but only the 11th to the 32nd are allowed to be used by ordinary marines, and the first 10 are used by personnel above the general level. Of course, there is also the Black Arm Zephyr used during training. The training grounds on the 11th to the 32nd are similar, basically not much different from yesterday's training ground on the 7th, but each of the top 10 training grounds is different. The training ground number 9 is actually a beach. Usually it is used to train marines to land on the beach, but today, it is much more empty. When Luo Shu arrived in the morning, he found that there were only 2 people here. One of them is Zephyr Admiral, besides that there is a blue-haired girl standing beside Zephyr calmly. Report. Looking at the 2 people in front of him, Luo Shu stretched out his hand directly and saluted. "Boy, I don't know why you have such a strong ability and you still want to be a marine ensign here. If it was a few years ago, I would definitely not teach you, but now, what do you want to learn?" Looking at Luo Shu, Zephyr chuckled slightly. To be honest, if he was not completely disappointed with marine a few years ago, he would not teach Luo Shu. With such an unknown source, it is hard to imagine whether he will be beneficial to marine after he finishes his studies, but at this moment, he is completely disappointed in marine. Marine actually wanted to take the pirate who had killed him, a boat student, and cut off his right arm to serve as Shichibukai. Although this didn't happen, that guy was just a Shichibukai candidate. But this undoubtedly stabbed Zephyr, only this matter he would never forgive marine. His duty tells him that, no matter what, he will finish teaching this class of students. He had already formed a guerrilla team, and now it may be time to leave. "I want to learn the 6 forms and how to use hockey." Looking at Zephyr, Luo Shu said seriously, his purpose here is to learn this thing. 6 forms and hockey. Well, how much you can learn and what you learn depends on your ability. Now, I will teach you the most basic of the 6 forms, shave. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Zephyr did not unexpectedly, although everything about the swordsman comes from the sword, some close cultivators are also inevitable. Luo Shu must have come here with Lu Shi and hockey. However, it seems to Zephyr that even if Luo Shu learns, he may not be a grandmaster. Because he will put more energy on swordsmanship. After all, this is the foundation of his life, but he doesn't even know that Luo Shu's foundation is actually infinite skill points. Shaving is a very short period of time, stepping to the ground to use the counter-shock force to increase its explosive force. Tempest kick. It's almost the same as your slash, except that you want to use your legs as your knives. Finger pistol is the best choice to exercise the strength and speed of your fingers. Paper arts, the main exercise is your body and flexibility. Iron body, what you practice is your ability to resist. Moonwalk, in fact, is another situation where the legs are exerting force. It is different from shaving. The shaving is forward, while moonwalk is upward. You don't need to step on many feet continuously, but you need to have strong foot strength. Directly stepped out of the air storm in the air, forcibly giving yourself a point of support. I have to admit that although Zephyr has the idea of rebelling against Marine, he is still very serious when he teaches Luo Shu. He has never thought about whether he will conflict with Luo Shu if he is not in Marine one day. From this point of view, it can be seen that Zephyr is indeed a very stubborn person, stubbornly walking his own way, and stubbornly fulfilling his responsibilities and obligations. In the next few days, Luo Shu worked hard every day to practice the 6 forms. He cultivated skills, not after the other party taught him, he could learn it in seconds. He must first learn it by himself before he can add attribute points. So these days, he has been working hard to learn the 6 forms. However, since the next day, Zephyr no longer appeared in the training ground, only occasionally came to see Luo Shu's progress, but the blue-haired beauty has been here, but she also ignored Luo Shu. Instead, Luo Shu once took a look at it while holding a notebook to write and draw. It seemed to be drawing a machine, but it was not clear what Luo Shu was. Although he had seen One Piece in his previous life, he also had a certain understanding of the characters in One Piece. This blue-haired girl should be Ain, and there is also Ain. Anyway, it is a transliteration. Just call it whatever you want. However, Luo Shu doesn't know what her original responsibilities are. She only knows that she is a major. It's really miserable to think about it. This girl doesn't seem to be as big as Luo Shu. As a result, Luo Shu is just an ensign. But now Luo Shu didn't even have the thought of picking up girls. He devoted himself to the 6 forms practice every day. Finally, a month later, Luo Shu's first 6 forms practice was completed. Shave, the 6 gestures, Luo Shu spent a month finally cultivated. When he saw the LV1 that showed the level on the shave, he was going crazy, and looking at Ain like him, he shook his head gently. Because she is not only responsible for correcting Luo Shu and preventing him from practicing, but she also has the responsibility of monitoring Luo Shu. With Luo Shu's physical fitness, to be honest, if she is some genius, with the same physical fitness, for a shaved master, it can even be shortened within 10 days. And when Luo Shu is training these days, his physical fitness is constantly increasing, but under such circumstances, it took him a month to learn to shave. It seems that most of his talents have increased. When it comes to swordsmanship, it can only be regarded as general to physical skills. In fact, there is nothing wrong with Ain's words, because Luo Shu's talent is really only mediocre. When he was invested in Koshiro, Koshiro didn't think he would have anything to do. It took him half a year to learn basic swordsmanship, but less than a week after he learned the basic swordsmanship, he was able to slash, and within a month, his slashing power was comparable to that of a great swordsman. This makes Koshiro think that Luo Shu is an unborn genius. Although he seems to have a mediocre talent, he may have a special understanding of kendo. In fact, Luo Shu added skill points. His talents are really average, not to mention that compared with Zoro and Luffy, the children of the Destiny, even in naval headquarters, there are many smarter people than him. However, after he learned this skill, these people only had the chance to be left behind by him. That night, after Luo Shu returned to his home, he directly added the shave to the full level. The properties have also undergone tremendous changes. Shaving, LV1 level, one of the 6 styles, stepping on the ground more than 10 times in 0.36 seconds, using explosive speed generated by reaction force to move, exceeding the visual ability of ordinary eyes, can move 1 to 3 meters instantly distance, moving speed plus 10%. Shaved, LV99 level, one of the 6 styles. It meets people in 0.36 seconds. It steps on the ground nearly 1,000 times. It uses the explosive speed generated by the reaction force to move. It exceeds observation hockey's visual ability and can instantly move 1 to 999 meters. Distance, moving speed plus 3,420%. As Luo Shu filled up his skills, he felt for the first time that his body had undergone some changes as his skills changed. He felt that his leg muscles became firmer in an instant, and it seemed that the whole body was a little lighter. This feeling made him jump off the chuang and moved lightly, and he found that the strength of his legs had been significantly strengthened. Thinking of this, he immediately ran to a nearby training ground. As he shaved it out, he instantly felt as if the whole world was still, the wind was no longer so noisy, and the insects' cries were no longer so short. The feeling of surpassing time and space made him a little confused for an instant, but this feeling came quickly and went quickly. By the time he reacted, he had already appeared at 999 meters. Taking out a watch he bought before, Luo Shu did a test. Sure enough, when he used the shave again, he felt that the whole world was still again, and when he reappeared, he glanced at his watch, and it turned out to be not a second has passed. But in that state just now, he felt that it had been a minute, and this feeling of surpassing the flow of time was really cool. By the way, now that the leg muscle Ru has been trained, can I try Tempest Kick and Moonwalk? Tempest Kick and Moonwalk also rely on the power of the legs. Now Luo Shu has increased the level of shave, passive increased the strength of his legs, so now it is time to try Tempest Kick and Moonwalk. With Luo Shu's right leg flicked, a half-moon-shaped slash flew out in an instant, but it was a far cry from his slash with a knife, and disappeared after flying less than 3 meters. But at this time, Luo Shu's system has another skill. Tempest Kick LV1. Bang, bang, bang. Standing on the beach on the 9th training ground, Luo Shu was holding his upper body, and was constantly hitting every muscle of his body by a boxing robot. This is the way to train iron body, and Luo Shu I have been cultivating here for a day. Wait a moment, just as Luo Shu's group training was over and he was about to take a break, Ain, who had been standing there for many days, walked over and looked at him suspiciously. Is something wrong, Miss Ain? Luo Shu wiped his sweat, and looked at Ain. I want to know why you didn't train shaving, Tempest Kick and Moonwalk today. Do you think that learning to shave at the beginning is enough to save your life in battle? Tempest Kick is indeed inferior to yours even if you reach ultimate. It is understandable that you give up, but Moonwalk is actually very useful. It is not a wise move for you to train iron body specifically now. Looking at Luo Shu, Ain held a small notebook, while talking, writing and painting on it. Oh, you said shaving, Tempest Kick and Moonwalk, I have learned them all. When Luo Shu heard her words, Luo Shu just smiled and said flatly. Learned it. If you say that the shave you used to break 2 meters forward yesterday is also called learning. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Ain froze for a while, then looked at Luo Shu's gaze, like said as if watching a dude who couldn't get up to the wall. But before she finished speaking, Luo Shu suddenly disappeared in front of her. When she reacted, she found that Luo Shu had appeared more than 10 meters away. Seeing this scene, Ain's Zuiba couldn't help being surprised. Yesterday she saw that Luo Shu could only shave 2 or 3 meters. What the hell is this today? You know this is on the beach. If it is on concrete or hard ground, Luo Shu can definitely shave more than 15 meters. 15 meters, what is this concept? As far as she knows, the selection of CP9 seems to be the entry line is only 9 meters, that is to say, Luo Shu now has the level of being selected for CP9. You must know that it has just passed the night. What is the situation? Through Belden, I also learned Tempest Kick and Moonwalk. Seeing Ain's surprised look, Luo Shu threw his kick first, and instantly a slash struck the sea for a distance of more than 30 meters. Then he slowly disappeared, and then he showed Moonwalk again. After about 5 steps in the air, Luo Shu fell back to the ground. Seeing Luo Shu's movements, Ain was silly, because Luo Shu's shave, Tempest Kick and Moonwalk didn't seem to be just learned. To be honest, according to Ain's understanding, if you didn't learn 6 styles, more than a dozen. In years, it is almost impossible to reach Luo Shu's current level. But she saw with her own eyes that Luo Shu went from knowing nothing, and slowly changed to what she is now. What the hell is this? Then, do what you want. Looking at Luo Shu's Grandmaster shave, Tempest Kick and Moonwalk, which are more than his own, Ain swallowed, and then continued to write and draw next to Luo Shu. Sitting on the ground, drinking water, slowing down, and then accepting iron body exercises. In fact, last night, Luo Shu had already ordered Tempest Kick and Moonwalk to full level. He also tried Moonwalk at full level. He can keep floating in the sky. Until his physical strength is exhausted, he can keep floating in the sky. The power of Tempest Kick is indeed inferior to that of swords. After all, one is a sharp weapon and the other is just his own feet. However, the Tempest Kick thrown by Luo Shu can still fly more than 1,000 meters, although its sharpness it was a bit worse than the slash of the sword, but not much worse. At least it was not a problem to split a pirate ship. But he can't show all the results from the beginning. It takes a period of time to adapt, and these days, he naturally has to focus on the other 3 types. Paper arts needs flexibility, and finger pistol needs to exercise fingers. Compared with these 2 items, iron body is a little simpler, and basically it will be beaten. In this way, in Ain's very strange situation, 1 day passed. At the end of the training, Luo Shu went to the cafeteria for dinner, but Ain went to Zephyr's house. Don't get me wrong, she wants to report Luo Shu's situation to Zephyr. However, after Zephyr heard that Luo Shu could cultivate these abilities so quickly, although he was a little surprised, he was not too surprised. Because just like what Luo Shu said, one method can pass all methods. Luo Shu's slashing is so good, he must have no problem learning Tempest Kick, and he has learned Tempest Kick to strengthen the muscles of his legs. It's not too difficult to learn how to shave and moonwalk. Zephyr completely reversed Luo Shu's practice techniques, but neither he nor Ain felt that it should be like this. I have to admit that sometimes people are smarter and better, because the smarter people are, the more they will arrange a reasonable explanation for what they are surprised by. Zephyr and Ain are very smart, so they have a brain for how Luo Shu succeeded. And here Luo Shu, after having dinner, he trained his tired body for a day and walked towards home. It happened that when he came back at night, the big beauty next to him also came back. It's just that there is a long man who may have some relatives with Kizaru next to him, and his face is extremely wretched. Gion, I bought 2 movie tickets, do you want to go see it with me? Gion, I booked the best restaurant, let's go eat right away. At this time, the 2 of them were walking towards the big villa, while the man looked at the long-legged beauty over there, and said with a shy face. But the face of the long-legged beauty at this time showed a deep boredom. Plus, I told you that it's impossible for us. I don't like you. I don't have any feeling for you, understand? We're just colleagues. I'm home now, and I'm going back to rest. Please leave right away. It may be that you really can't bear it anymore. The beautiful girl named Gion has her eyes wide, and shouts loudly at the wretched man behind her. Hearing the beautiful woman's words, the man couldn't help taking a step back in embarrassment. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the beautiful woman opened the door and stepped in and closed the door. After eating closed doors, I saw that this man was really unhappy. Just when he was about to leave, he suddenly turned his head and saw Luo Shu watching the excitement next to him. This house. Hey, soldier, what is your name, what position, and which part is it? When Luo Shu was watching the show, the wretched man narrowed his eyes and yelled angrily. For him, Gion couldn't make an appointment today, and the fire in the stomach can only be sprinkled by someone. Luo Shu, occupation, ensign. Hearing what this guy said, Luo Shu smiled. He naturally knew what this guy meant, so he wanted to be a ladder. But is Luo Shu such a talkative person? Looking at this person, he said lazily. Soldier, do you know who you are talking to? Well, I forgive your ignorance. I am Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral T. Dolphin. Do you know who you are talking to? Hearing Luo Shu is just an ensign, this wretched man walked over Cha Kabuto with both hands, an extremely wretched face, squinted his eyes, and looked at Luo Shu. Oh, I see, Vice Admiral, what's the matter? Luo Shu shrugged as he looked at the admirer who came by and said calmly. Hey, boy, it looks like I'm going to teach you what is respect and inferiority today. Looking at Luo Shu's indifferent expression, he narrowed his eyes and kicked him in an instant. He is angry now. He wants to teach Luo Shu a meal so that his anger can come back, but unfortunately, he found the wrong person. If he finds another ensign, he might hit him as soon as he hits, but when will Luo Shu talk so easily? Seeing the leg he kicked over, Luo Shu kicked it directly. Although Luo Shu's 6 formulas have not yet been completed, the power of his legs, to be honest, has already entered the sword powerful level. If he finishes the 6 powered training, he will officially enter the sword powered level, and then practice armament hockey. If the practice is completed, then the physical quality will enter the world's top, great swordsman level. Although his leg strength is not as good as Admiral's backup plan, it is definitely not bad. Just heard a snap, the legs of the two crossed, and a huge force was pushed away from the middle of the two to the sides, which made the two of them take 2 steps back. But originally it was just a lesson to teach Luo Shu's extra face to be even more wretched, because he never thought that the strength of this ensign seems to be pretty good. Hey, I'm a little bit strong, today I'll give you pointers. But now that I've already hit, it's already hard to ride a tiger. Jiaji squinted his eyes and clenched his fists, looking at Luo Shu with a smile on his face. Said, and Luo Shu laughed when he heard what he said. To be honest, Luo Shu's actual combat experience is really bad. Now that there is an Admiral alternate to feed himself, it is naturally better. At this moment, the supercharger in front of him suddenly disappeared. Luo Shu knew that this was a shave, so he immediately used the shave. With the feeling that the flow of time slowed down, Luo Shu also saw that it had already been killed. The extra charge by your side. To be honest, Luo Shu's shave level is too high. Even Garp, Sengoku, 5 elders, when faced with Luo Shu shave, they are still at a disadvantage. After all, the level 99 is already the highest. The same is true for the extra meter. Obviously, his time flow is much slower than Luo Shu's. Seeing the extra meter still rushing over, Luo Shu instantly flew over the Tempest kick. But just as he was about to kick in the game, suddenly his body suddenly flashed a move, and at the same time he hit Luo Shu's mouth with a punch. Observation hockey. As soon as Jiaji dodges his attack, Luo Shu knew what was going on. He kicked the leg that was originally kicked out, and forcibly turned moonwalk into a horizontal direction, almost sticking to Jiaji. The hand that came back instantly retreated. As the two stood still again, Luo Shu's face showed a heavy expression. Sure enough, Admiral's alternate was not just for fun, and the expression on Jiaji's face became even more serious. Who are you? Your skill can't be just an ensign. Looking at Luo Shu, the eyes of Jiaji narrowed, and it was obvious that he was already serious. Hey, I'm an ensign, Vice Admiral doesn't need to find any reason. If you lose to an ensign, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Luo Shu said with a smile on his face and looked at Jiaji, and the look on Jiaji's face became more and more serious. Don't tell me. I'll arrest you if you don't tell me. There will always be someone who can let you say. He shook his neck gently, and Jiaji suddenly laughed and said, and then suddenly disappeared again. Luo Shu also used shave immediately. Although his shave ability is stronger than Jiaji, the problem is that he can observation hockey. Besides dodge, his attack effect is not obvious, and this time when he entered that state, he found that Jiaji's hands had turned black. Needless to say, Jiaji was preparing to use armament hockey. It seemed that this Vice Admiral candidate was really moving. If he still only uses 6 forms, Luo Shu will obviously not be his opponent, and since the opponent has already made a real move, Luo Shu is not welcome. In an instant, he drew out the saber he used to pick clothes, and watched the extra charge that had been killed in the flow world. Luo Shu's heart was deserted, and then he drew his sword and used it in an instant. At this time, Jiaji in the shaved state also felt a bit of crisis. Although Luo Shu did not cut at his neck in order to avoid killing him, the knife was also cut at his Hungarian mouth. Observation hockey instantly felt Luo Shu's movements. Moreover, he was prompted to add a counter. He couldn't get out of it. If he didn't return to defense, he would be seriously injured if he didn't die, so the hands of the added counter would instantly return to defense. With a sound of ding, Luo Shu's saber directly slashed on Jiaji's hands. Don't look at the excitement just mentioned, but in fact, this is only what happened within 0.36 seconds. Others will want to watch. If you do, you will only see Jiaji disappear once, and then Luo Shu disappears. When the two reappear, Luo Shu has an extra knife in his hand, and he cuts it directly at Jiaji. Above the hands of the meter. The huge impact almost made the extra kick hit like a baseball that was directly drawn by a bat, and instantly fell towards the house behind. The house made of wood and reinforced concrete hardly did any deterrent effect, causing Jiaji to smash through a huge opening. After smashing through several rooms in a row, he fell to the ground in embarrassment. At this moment, his hands were trembling constantly. With the blow just now, he almost felt that armament hockey, which was covering his hands, was almost defeated. Through the wall he smashed, he looked at Luo Shu outside. The solemn face. Juji, are you going crazy? You dare to bump into it. What are you going to do? At this moment, Gion, who had just entered, couldn't help but walk down from the second floor with an angry expression, looking at Jia over there. Ji angrily roared. Hey, Gion, pick up your Jinpai, we may be in trouble. Jiaji's eyes stared at Luo Shu, and he spoke to the beauty behind him without raising his head. What's the trouble? He is the soldier recruited by Garp Vice Admiral. After seeing Luo Shu through the hole, Jiwan looked a little strange. At last, Jiaji left in a desperate manner, but when Luo Shu woke up the next morning, he found that it seemed that everyone in naval headquarters knew that he had beaten him last night. It can be tied with Admiral's alternate extras, or even slightly better. Luo Shu's reputation has risen in naval headquarters almost instantly. Even Ain, who came to supervise his training today, looked strange in his eyes. But Luo Shu didn't feel much at all, because for him, the extra cost was originally not in the scope of his plan, and he defeated him, this should be due. After all, his level 99 skills were not given for nothing. Kake and Gion, Kake is T-Dolphin, and Gion is Momoshiki. These two can be said to be the strongest two of Marines, in addition to Sengoku, Garp, 3 Admiral, and Suru. The reason why they are Admiral candidates is because their strength is stronger than the other Vice Admiral. You can press them a little bit. I dare not say anything else. Luo Shu has the strength of Vice Admiral level. It can be said that it is nailed on the board, but the problem now is that Luo Shu is still just an ensign. No matter how much Luo Shu's reputation rises, it cannot change the fact that he is an ensign. So what should he do or what? And Sengoku and the others didn't mean to look for him. In this way, after another month, Luo Shu's iron body was finally completed. On the day that he practiced well, Luo Shu ordered his iron body to level 99 at night. Iron body, LV1, gathers the muscles of the whole body. In the case of unable to move, it increases its own anti-strike ability and reduces the opponent's physical strike damage by 5%. Iron body, LV99, gathers the muscles of the whole body. In the case of unable to move quickly, it increases its own resistance to strikes and reduces the opponent's physical strike damage by 95%. Sure enough, after increasing to level 99, the power of this iron body is quite bluffing. Not only did it directly reduce the physical damage by 95%, but the original features that could not be moved have also become movable. However, Luo Shu's most fancy is not this skill, but the overall improvement of the whole body brought by this skill. Originally, after Luo Shu had practiced shaving, moonwalk and tempest kick, he only had the power of his legs to reach the level of a swordsman, but after he finished training the iron body, the level 99 iron body also brought him to his whole body. A huge improvement. When the 99 level was added, Luo Shu finally entered the level of a swordsman. Now his pure physical strength can be compared with Jian Hao, coupled with his full-level swordsmanship. Now he feels that even if he really meets Hawkeye, he may not win, but he should not lose. It's too ugly, at least it's not a problem for him to escape. Under such circumstances, Luo Shu has practiced harder. Probably because of the full commission brought by Iron Body, after another week, he learned Paper Arts. Paper Arts, LV1, unloads the strength of the whole body, and through the changes in the airflow generated by the opponent's movements, there is a certain chance to dodge the attack towards itself, and the dodge probability increases by 10%. And when this skill is added to the full level, it becomes Paper Arts, LV99, unloads the strength of the whole body, and through the changes in the airflow generated by the opponent's movements, it has a very high probability of dodge against attacks towards itself, and the dodge probability is increased by 3,420%. Yes, Luo Shu can almost avoid all attacks if he wants to. After reaching level 99, Luo Shu's flexibility to his body has also been greatly improved, but what makes Luo Shu most excited is that through Paper Arts, he seems to feel the existence of observation hockey, but unfortunately, this is currently it's just a very virtual feeling. After all, even for a son of destiny like Luffy, it took 2 years to learn hockey. Luo Shu is now full of calculations, which is 2 months. It is too early to learn hockey. In this way, there is only one finger pistol for Luo Shu's current 6 formulas. In recent days, Luo Shu has been practicing finger pistol. If he remembers correctly, he can comprehend the trick on his own and return his life after he has cultivated to the depths of the 6 forms. This trick is a real big trick. Not only the people of CP9, but also Vice Admiral, the headquarters of Marine, have many people. The most famous one is the Ghost Spider. He can control his hair into hands, holding a knife to fight against each other. His nickname also came from this. And the most important thing is that this trick is still a life-saving trick. As long as you don't die immediately, you can quickly recover from internal injuries and the like. Although it will overdraw your life, at least you don't need to die for the time being. This is very important. Life can be made up. But when people die, there is really nothing left. It is precisely because of this that Luo Shu practiced finger pistol desperately, but unfortunately, finger pistol is different from the other 5 styles in that it is a separate move. What he cultivates is only the speed of the arms and the strength and hardness of the fingers, and it has nothing to do with the flexibility of the whole body, the ability to resist blows, and the strength of the legs. If there is some connection between the other 6 forms, then this one is really unconnected, and recently Ain has been shocked by Luo Shu and got used to it. For her, Luo Shu can do whatever she likes. In recent days, the two of them have also become accustomed to each other's existence. Luo Shu is practicing, and what she should do, but apart from that, the two have not talked anymore. But sometimes peace is about to be broken. After Luo Shu finished training that day, he went to dinner as usual, but when he came out, he found that someone was already waiting for him outside. When Ain went to report Luo Shu's training progress with Zephyr, he was also told by Zephyr that he didn't need to supervise Luo Shu's training for the time being, because Sengoku sent him an errand. But he hasn't finished his 6 forms. Hearing Zephyr's words, Ain didn't know why, his heart seemed a little empty, so he subconsciously spoke. Ain, do you think he really needs to learn all the 6 forms? After hearing Ain's words, Zephyr froze for a moment, then looked at Ain lovingly and said. Hearing what Zephyr said, Ain swallowed back. Indeed, that man doesn't need it. If Luo Shu knew their conversation, he would probably say, he needs it. Marshal Sengoku, is there anything you want to do with me? However, Luo Shu at this time had already followed the messenger to the marshal's office. Looking at Sengoku, who was sitting alone in the office today, Luo Shu asked with some confusion. There is something for you to do. Raising his head and looking at Luo Shu at the door, Sengoku took a deep breath and spoke to Luo Shu. After coming out of the naval headquarters building, Luo Shu looked at the letter in his hand and couldn't help sighing. It seemed that his 6-style training career was about to be put on board. But it doesn't matter until there is only one finger pistol, which should be fast too. After putting the letter into his kabuto, Luo Shu walked towards his home. Passing by Gion, in front of Momosegi's villa, he found that Momosegi's house had been repaired, and Momosegi has not returned to this home since he had a fight with Jockey that day. I want to come too. My home has more than one big hole broken, it must be repaired, and before that, this is not what Admiral's candidate should live in. But after so many days of repairing, the house is almost finished. When Luo Shu came back, he happened to see Momosegi standing at the door. Maybe it was because she felt that Luo Shu was coming. Momosegi Gion also looked back at Luo Shu, but didn't say much, and turned his head back. Luo Shu obviously didn't mean to say anything to this admiral candidate, and went straight. Returned to his home. After a rest night, the next day, he did not go to the training ground, but went directly to the pier, where a small boat was waiting for him. This boat actually means something like a speedboat, but it is much larger than an ordinary speedboat, and even has the feel of a yacht. Of course, no matter its luxury or its own shape, it is not as handsome as a yacht. This boat has 2 driving modes. One is to run with sails, which is also the normal power of the world. The second is to put propellers under the boat, which may be carried out by the engine at the bottom of the boat, but the boat can be installed. There are not many fuels, so this is not considered conventional power. The only advantage is that the ship is very easy to operate, except that someone needs to pull the rope when it is close to the dock, and nothing else is needed. When Luo Shu was on the Garp boat, he had been learning how to drive such a boat, and these days, Ain would sometimes tell him something about driving. So he will also drive this boat, and in the Grand Line, the chart is useless, here is to look at the pointer, and he took an eternal pointer of his destination and just run along this line. So I don't worry about getting lost. Fresh water, food, clothes, money, and other application materials have already been stacked in the cabin. Sengoku asked Luo Shu to send this letter, mainly to exercise Luo Shu and let him run tasks alone. It's not for Luo Shu to endure hardship. So although this boat is not too big, it has a lot of stuff. Finally, after confirming the eternal pointer with the staff on the dock, Luo Shu left naval headquarters after the materials on board and the things that need to be paid attention to when sailing. This time, the place he is going to is called Fran Island. This place is in New World. He is going there, and hand this Sengoku letter to Vice Admiral, the director of Fran Island. As for what it was about, Luo Shu didn't ask, and he didn't know anything about it. Leaving Marine's Crescent Bay, passing the Gate of Justice, and entering Marine's exclusive channel, Luo Shu moved on to the New World. In this world, if you want to go to the New World, for ordinary people, there are only two ways to go. One is to walk on the Fishmen Island under the sea, which is also the most common way for pirates. There is a way to cross the Red Line, but the sacred place Mariajoy is in the middle of New World and Grand Line. The Holy Land Mariajoy is not as simple as imagined. Not to mention the 5 elders above, the CP0 under Celestial Dragons alone is enough to make people very headache, because the formation of CP0 is all Admiral or Admiral candidates who retired from the Army and Marine, that is to say, this is an organization composed of people with at least Admiral's strength, even if its strength is weakened because of the lack of the heart of the strong, but it is not any force that can be violent. Moreover, according to legend, Celestial Dragons also masters Uranus, one of the 3 ancient weapons. This is also because of what? Celestial Dragons are so heartless, so too, but they still dominate the world. There is power in the barrel of the gun. Now Celestial Dragons is the biggest power in the world, so they don't care. What are the 4 emperors and the 5 emperors, because for them, if they want to destroy one power, it is actually very simple. In addition to these 2 roads to New World, there is another road, which is exclusive to Marine. Their master can enter New World through a passage similar to the Upside Down Mountain. This is what Luo Shu is walking now, road. I have to admit that Upside Down Mountain is actually interesting. Luo Shu didn't walk Upside Down Mountain when he came to the Grand Line. Now he really feels like playing with the torrents. However, on the other side of this passage, there is no One Piece's Ship Doctor and Whale Laboon. After entering the New World, Luo Shu can be regarded as a formal realization of the horror of the New World, because in the Grand Line, although the weather has changed a lot, it was still sunny, maybe half an hour later, suddenly rain. But basically there are still traces to be found, but after arriving in New World, the weather here really resembles a woman's face, and it changes when it changes. Luo Shu just passed the Upside Down Mountain. The sky was still clear for thousands of miles. Then suddenly it started to snow. Yes, it snowed, but the sun in the sky was still there. The ghost knew how the snow came, even without clouds. It started to snow, and the temperature instantly dropped to more than 10 degrees below zero, but fortunately, Luo Shu's body is now very strong, and there are many physics on board. It started to rain after it snowed for about half an hour, and then it started to wind. Luo Shu did not practice finger pistol on the first day after departure, because he has been dealing with weather matters, thanks to the single-player battleship that he is currently driving with Marine's highest technology research. If this is replaced by a normal boat, maybe he is finished. When it is windy, you must rewind and use fuel to move forward. When it is raining, you must pay attention to thunder and not to deviate from the course. It is really troublesome to get out alone. It wasn't until the 3rd day that he went out, that he was slightly used to the weather in New World, and then he had time to practice finger pistol. In this way, he was on the road while training. Unknowingly, another week passed. Because Sengoku said that this letter is not too urgent. It can be delivered in half a month. Although Luo Shu will not arrive at the last minute, he does not leave very quickly. His sailing skills are indeed very awkward, and this technique is not a skill, and he has no need to learn, so he can only train a lot during this time. But before he knew it, he also came to his target sea area. Chapter 11. The Grand Line and the Red Line form a cross shape. One side is the Grand Line and the other is the New World. The length of the New World and the Grand Line are actually the same. However, the weather here is even worse, and the forces are complicated. There are 5 major forces in New World, namely 4 emperors and marine. However, compared to the 4 emperors, the power of the marine is much smaller, and besides the 4 emperors and the marine, there are many other powerful forces here. For example, the legendary Wanokuni, the legendary Fur Clan, and the base camp of Hawkeye are also in New World, and some of these forces have taken refuge in the 4 emperors and some are still neutral. But undoubtedly, no matter which power is in the first half of the Grand Line, or in the 4 seas, it will become an extremely powerful force that can even rule a sea area, but here, they are just 4 emperors and marines. It's just the existence in the cracks. Among the 5 major forces, marine is undoubtedly the weakest. They have only one G5 fortress in New World, which is like a protruding nail, retaining a trace of marine's face. In other places, marine basically focuses on surveillance. Yes, their main job is to monitor, balance, and maintain stability. This is what the world government needs. They can abandon the New World site and let the 4 emperors stay there, but they are absolutely not allowed to separate between them. Win or lose, or stretch the tentacles to places outside of New World. The Fren Island that Luo Shu is going to this time is a monitoring station. It is monitoring one of the 4 emperors, Charlotte Linlin, which belongs to the Ant Pirates. Outpost. The person in charge, Vice Admiral Prodi, is the highest commander here. However, when Luo Shu's boat entered this sea area, he found that there was a naval battle in the sea ahead. One side of the naval battle is naturally marine, with a total of 12 surveillance ships, and their opponents are 8 Ant Pirates ships. However, the naval battle at this time was really something weird. Because neither side has the meaning of rushing up to engage in a string battle, this world is not the world before Luo Shu. The naval battles in that world consisted mainly of ships, guns and planes. There is no such thing as a battle. After all, marine's strongest weapon is an aircraft carrier. But it's different in this world. The world's blooming cannonballs have just been researched shortly, and they still look like a ball, and the damage is really not high. Not only the damage, accuracy, strength, and range are actually very low. Under such circumstances, the main theme of the world naval warfare is the battle of the strings. But now the boats on both sides are shooting at each other these guns that are simply inaccurate, but they have no intention of rushing. The scene is really weird. When Luo Shu's ship entered this sea of war, people on both sides saw Luo Shu's ship for the first time. After all, the marine Peugeot on Luo Shu's sail was still very conspicuous. Watching the ship there, he immediately flagged Luo Shu's ship and let Luo Shu's ship pass by, but the people from the Ant Pirate group wouldn't let Luo Shu just pass by. My lord, a marine boat was found in the sea on the left, approaching the battlefield. Seeing Luo Shu's boat, on the main ship of the 8 warships here, a person immediately leaned in front of a big man with a face. Said solemnly. This big man is tall, strong, and ugly, like a gorilla, but here, no one dares to look down upon him, not only because of his ferocious appearance but also because he is among the pirates. In addition to the ant, one of the 4 strongest adults. Well, what else is there to hesitate? Sink it. Hearing the report from his subordinates, the ugly man couldn't help grinning, and then said with excitement. Hearing what this man said, the people below immediately executed it. In an instant, the artillery on the ship closest to Luo Shu among the 8 ships all shifted their targets, no longer aimed at the surveillance ship in the distance, and aimed at Luo Shu's boat. Fire. Following the orders from the people on this boat, countless shells shot directly at Luo Shu's boat in an instant. It's over. Although it is said that the attack power of this shell is not strong and the accuracy is not high, it is really difficult to survive such a covering attack now. At this time, those marines on the surveillance ship, after seeing this scene, couldn't help but sighed helplessly. It seems that today another heroic marine soldier will be buried in the seabed. Tempest kick Lianghua. At this time, Luo Shu, who was on the boat, looked at the cannonballs flying over, but did not panic. Since he added Tempest Kick to the full level, he is also trying to make some Tempest Kick. For example, some skills that he remembered in the original work are easy to use. For the 99 level Tempest Kick, he can use any derivative skills as long as he wants. With Luo Shu's legs kept kicking out. In an instant, countless Tempest Kick slashed, and directly killed the shells in the air. Tom 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 tom. As the Tempest Kick slashed and flew out, the moment he encountered the shell, he directly cut the shell in half, and some of the cut shells directly exploded. Others fell into the sea, but the Tempest Kick that had cut the shells did not stop because of this, but rushed directly to the pirate ship that fired at him. Seeing those Tempest Kick flying over, the person in charge on the ship couldn't help cursing in secret. In an instant, a man with a sword jumped up from the ship, and the sword in his hand also completed countless slashes and hits in an instant. Tempest Kick kicked by Luo Shu. This person is indeed a master of swordsmanship. Although Luo Shu did not use a sword in this attack, he used Tempest Kick, and because he used Lianhua, his power was somewhat scattered, but it was far from ordinary people can follow, but the long sword in the person's hand was repeatedly thrown, and the slash that was thrown out could neutralize Luo Shu's Tempest Kick Lianhua. But unfortunately, his slashes were too few. Although almost half of the slashes were blocked, the remaining slashes came. Bang bang, bang, bang. Numerous voices exploded, and the warship that seemed to be very mighty at this time was completely kicked by the Tempest Kick. Suddenly sawdust flew across the entire ship. The sail and the hull suffered huge damage. Finally, a Tempest Kick was cut directly on the mast. With a bang, the ship's mast fell, just in time. After hitting the hull of the ship, which caused the ship to sink abruptly, the damage caused just now was also reflected. The boat began to deflect unnaturally and fell to one side. Seeing that the ship was about to fall, all the pirates on the ship were a little panicked. He's looking for a boat. Those who didn't have a chance to find a boat just looked for a rope, hooked directly to another boat not far away, and swung over quickly. And the person who jumped up to block Luo Shu Tempest Kick just now, his face was sullen, and he went the other way, and directly killed Luo Shu's boat. You know, the commander of this ship is him. Now that the ship is sinking, he must be punished. If you think about the level of punishment from the ant, if he can't take the blame and make meritorious deeds, he may be welcomed, at least less. 10 years of life. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but get angry. He came straight over, and directed at Luo Shu's boat in the air, and directly drew a dozen sword energy. But at this moment, Luo Shu had already picked up the saber beside him. Watching these slashes, Luo Shu chuckled, and the long sword in his hand was slammed, and suddenly, a slash that connected heaven and earth directed towards this person. After killing the past, the slash that this person threw just now was just like a child's playhouse, and it was instantly swallowed by Luo Shu's slash. Just as this person was so surprised, Luo Shu's slash had already arrived. Bah! With a soft sound, this person's body was directly divided into two. The treasured sword he was so proud of did not play any role at this time, and it was directly half turned into two halves with him. With the blood in the air, the two corpses that this person had turned into fell into the sea feebly, but this slash did not stop there. Instead, he hacked directly at the ship behind. This slash is Hawkeye. Why would Hawkeye sit on Marine's ship? Seeing the slash that penetrated the sky and the earth, everyone on the pirate ship was going crazy. In their impression, there was only one person who could slash such a slash, the world's #1 swordsman, Eagle Eye. Mihawk. And Marine is also very confused, because they have not received the news that Mihawk is coming, nor have they heard that Mihawk will come by Marine's ship. For a while, everyone on the Marine was in a daze, and they didn't understand what was going on at all, but it didn't prevent them from watching the show. Just when these people felt bad, the ugly guy who ordered Luo Shu to attack just now appeared on the boat here. Watching the slash in front of him, he jumped up suddenly, the one with his right hand the long sword spun directly, and went hard toward the slash. Only a muffled sound was heard. The long sword in the man's hand was connected with the slash, and it was forcibly blocked the slash, but this was only a moment, probably only 2 seconds later, the long sword began to collapse, and the slash killed it all the way. It wasn't just the man's long sword that broke down. Even with the man's hand, the man's body almost collapsed. As the man turned into countless fragments and fell into the ocean, the slash continued towards the ship. Go, but at this moment, 3 guys with the same length as the man rushed out. The upper, middle, and lower parts were blocked in front of this slash. As the 3 men collapsed together, the power of that slash also became extremely small. At this moment, the last ugly man appeared on the stage, and his body became extremely dark, including the long sword. As the long sword in his hand revolved and smashed on the slash, this slash finally did not withstand it. With a snap, it became countless spots of light and disappeared between the heaven and the earth. And this man's face was also extremely ugly, because the power of this slash was too strong. Don't forget, this is just an attack that the opponent waved casually. If the opponent waved a few more times, then he would be really hard to fight. I don't know if he has a close relationship with Luo Shu. Just when he was entangled, Luo Shu in the distance slapped a few more slashes. In an instant, 5 huge slashes directly killed the fleet here. Coming over, watching those 5 slashes, this person's teeth were about to be crushed. Abandon the ship and flee back. He was relatively easy to deal with 1 slash, 2 gangs were okay, 3 gangs were very reluctant, but now the 5 gangs came directly. My god, this is going to kill them all. So this man didn't even consider whether he could block it, and directly ordered to abandon the ship. He didn't want to block it anymore. Hearing what he said, his men jumped into the sea from the boat for the first time, and then swam in the direction of the small island behind. As for the remaining 7 boats, only a creak was heard. After that, he was directly chopped into 6 parts by those 5 slashes. Without hesitation, these ships dumped directly into the ocean. And the ugly long man dodges the 5 slashing attacks at this moment, and directly kills him. Seeing him in the air, Luo Shu slashed past with another slash. However, this person seemed to know in advance that Luo Shu was going to cut there, and he dodged directly. Cut. Observation hockey. Seeing the other's movements, Luo Shu couldn't help muttering, as the old saying goes, only dogs can kill dogs. The only thing that can deal with observation hockey is observation hockey. Observation hockey can not only harm what the other party is going to do, but most importantly, it can block one's own breath, which has nothing to do with the strength of seeing and hearing. As long as you don't develop the visual color to the extent that you can foresee the future, you only need to learn the visual color, and the other party will not be able to guess what you are going to do next. Of course, you can't guess the opponent, but at least this is on the same level. But now Luo Shu doesn't know how to observation hockey, so there is some trouble. Double roll pretzel. After flashing that slash, this man also came directly to Luo Shu's battleship. He clearly saw Luo Shu's face. Luo Shu is not an eagle eye, which makes he was angry, fortunate, and curious. Angrily, this little-known kid actually destroyed 8 of his own warships. Fortunately, this kid is not a real eagle eye, but what is curious is how this kid has developed such a sword spirit. What about? But after these feelings have to be temporarily suppressed, he is going to kill this guy at this time. Iron body. Looking at the guy who fell from the sky, Luo Shu did not evade, but directly used iron body, because he knew that if he dodges away, his boat will be finished, and he still likes this boat very much. Yes, what's more, he may not lose when he fights melee. Ding ding. The man's biscuit sword hit Luo Shu directly, but the scene of a sword and 2 eyes did not appear in his imagination, even he just pierced Luo Shu's clothes. 95% physical damage reduction, not to mention ignoring any attacks, but people who can hurt him in this world, haha, rare. What? Seeing his own blow, Luo Shu unexpectedly took it down. This person was also very surprised. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. You know that Luo Shu's body is not covered with armament hockey, that is to say, did he use the strength of his body to make this move next? How can this be? Looking at Luo Shu, he couldn't help but think of a monster called Kaido. Draw a knife and cut. After blocking the opponent's blow, Luo Shu's hand was also placed on his sword. Others can't move with iron body, but he can. Although he can't move fast, he can use it. Skills, not a big problem. Not good. The moment Luo Shu put his hand on the hilt of the sword, all the pores of this man's body were instantly opened, and a very terrifying feeling kept engulfing his heart, his seeing and hearing the color told him that he should get out of the way immediately or else he would be dead. But sometimes it's not that people think of it, and the body can react. Just when this person is about to get out of the way, Luo Shu's dagger has already been thrown out. He only heard a crackling sound. Although this person retreated abruptly, the Hun's mouth was directly cut out with a huge wound, but what was unexpected is that the wound did not bleed, but this as the wound spread, people slowly shattered into scum on the ground. And after this person was broken, a man with purple hair appeared in front of Luo Shu. This person turned in the air and jumped directly onto a wooden board that floated over not far away, watching his mouth being scratched. There was a wound, his face was quite ugly. At that moment, he had covered his whole body with armament hockey, and also covered the biscuit armor outside of him, but he was still slashed to pieces by Luo Shu and injured himself, if it weren't because Luo Shu was not too much to him. Too much understanding. If the stroke is not deep, then he may have died. Armament hockey has very little effect. This guy's sword is too strong. Looking at Luo Shu standing on the boat, the purple-haired man couldn't help but grin. To be honest, the reason why he stayed in that armor was because he hated pain, he was afraid of pain, but at this moment he knew that now is not the time to think about pain, because if a Gao is not good, he is very it may die. Is this your true face? Ah, it's still ugly. Luo Shu smiled as he looked at the man in the distance, put the sword back, and looked at him evilly. But now this person will not be shaken by such a simple activist method, still staring at Luo Shu firmly. Quickly solve you, I still have a task. Feeling the look of this man with big eyes and small eyes, Luo Shu cast aside Zui. He knew that this man would not dare to come over and beat himself for the time being, because he was very afraid of his own actions. Swordsmanship, since he won't come, let's go by himself. As Luo Shu's voice fell, his right foot suddenly stepped on the deck, and the feeling of the flow of time came again. If someone else shaves, you have to step on the ground to move forward, but Luo Shu doesn't need it. Don't forget, his moonwalk is also level 99 full. So he directly stepped into the air and killed the Z-haired man not far away. When he came to Ziffarin's side, the time to shave had passed, and his dagger cut had already slashed directly towards this person. Suddenly Pretzel, but the person still knew what Luo Shu was going to do, and suddenly turned his hand back, the sword made of biscuit in his hand turned into a flame sword. When this sword collided with the long sword in Luo Shu's hand, a huge force suddenly exploded in the middle of the two. This move will explode, and this person is for this explosive power. To keep him away from Luo Shu. Bang! With a loud bang, this person used the power of the explosion to forcefully fly out, and Luo Shu here is not an armament hockey, so he can only temporarily stop and use iron body to defend after staying with this trick. When the power of the explosion dissipated, Luo Shu found that the man had been blown away and flew far away. Seeing this, Luo Shu couldn't help gritting his teeth and throwing out a few sword auras in an instant, but unfortunately, facing an opponent who has knowledge and beauty, and the opponent is only one person, this kind of long-range slash has an effect on him. Not too good. He turned around forcibly in the air, and then drew away the sword aura. Luo Shu also rushed over moonwalk again at this time. He actually used the shave while stepping on the moonwalk. In the eyes of everyone, Luo Shu appeared again as if suddenly disappeared in the air. He came to the man's side again, and the sword drawing technique in his hand slashed at this man again. But this person is very tough both in reaction and in how harsh he is, because he used the explosive move again, with a bang, and another sound. Although Luo Shu blocked it with iron body, the problem is that his sword is just ordinary. Saber. Two such explosions in a row made this sword finally overwhelmed, and it shattered into countless pieces in midair, and the man with purple hair was blown farther by this blow. Buckling. Throwing away the broken knife in his hand, Luo Shu fell from the air, and after stepping on a plank, he used moonwalk and the shaved combo again to make him fly directly to the person. But this time, he didn't have a knife to release the slash, so he could only fly over this person and throw Tempest Kick Liangwa directly. He knew that this person would observation hockey, so he gave up using the more powerful Tempest Kick, and instead prepared to use skills with more attack range, but just when these Tempest Kick slashes were about to hit him, suddenly the purple-haired man's body was once again covered with a biscuit armor, and he was also equipped with armament hockey. The Tempest kick slash directly hit this person, but it did not break his armor, but just shot him directly out of the air. He smashed into the sea, and when Luo Shu also chased him straight into the sea, he found that in the sea, his murlocs had been here for a long time. When he came, he was picked up by the murlocs, and Luo Shu's swimming speed in the water couldn't keep up with these guys. Looking at the two escaped, Luo Shu couldn't help but cursed in his heart, and then resurfaced. There was no way, it seemed that he couldn't catch up this time. Climbing on a wooden board again, Luo Shu used moonwalk to return to his boat, and then drove towards the marine surveillance ship over there. When the people at Marine saw Luo Shu's appearance, they were obviously dumbfounded. Because they didn't know the man who destroyed the 8 battleships of Anti just now and beat Charlotte Cracker, one of the 4 desert stars, who was it. Following the guidance of the ships ahead, Luo Shu also drove his own boat and came to the main ships of the 12 surveillance ships. After he boarded the main ship, he saw an old man in purple clothes and a cloak of justice standing not far away. However, he looked at Luo Shu's gaze, but there was something weird. Because to be honest, anyone who sees Luo Shu will never think that he will have such a strong combat power. Such combat power is really surprising. Prodi Vice Admiral, hello, I am Ensign Luo Shu, and I was ordered to bring Marshal Sengoku's letter to you. Looking at this person, Luo Shu took a step forward and took out the letter Sengoku had given him. Although Luo Shu has never seen this person. But since the fight with Jia Ji, I don't know whether it was intentional or unintentional. Ain deliberately handed over a marine album to Luo Shu's hands. This marine atlas is printed by the world government to demonstrate the strength of marine. Among them, photos of officials above the marine general level can be found here. Luo Shu also took a brief look, so he probably remembered some people. For example, the Marshal, Sengoku, codenamed Shanshi. Admiral Sakazuki, codenamed Akainu, Admiral Pelusalino, codenamed Kizaru, Admiral Kuzan, codenamed Qingzi. Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp, codename Iron Fist, General Staff Crane has no code name, Vice Admiral Gion, codename Momosugi, Vice Admiral Plus, codename T. Dolphin, Vice Admiral Doberman, codename Fighting Dog. G5 Base Director Vice Admiral Wilgo, codename Ghost Bamboo, Vice Admiral Bastille is codenamed Shark Slayer, Vice Admiral Maynard is codenamed Chaser, Vice Admiral Dalmesia is codenamed Dalmatian, etc. Basically, he can be a familiar face, not to mention that he also needs to know who the opponent is to send the letter this time. Oh, Ensign, thanks for your hard work, you go and rest first. After receiving the letter from Luo Shu, Prodi's expression was really strange. Now he needs to relax a bit before he can calm his heart down. Because of an ensign, it really happened for the first time that things like Cracker were defeated. Yes, hearing Prodi's words, Luo Shu also saluted, and then followed a person towards the back of the battleship, where it was a resting place. As for the person who led Luo Shu, the gaze that looked at Luo Shu was more red. Although he is a light school, to be honest, whether it is marine or pirate. Since I was born in this world, my worship of the strong will not be discounted. However, although he admires Luo Shu very much, he didn't say much. After all, he and Luo Shu are not familiar yet. But looking at those eyes, I don't know what to do, and I know that he admires Luo Shu very much. He wanted to ask Luo Shu how he cultivated. But this is not the time yet. After taking Luo Shu to the back to rest, the major returned, and when he returned, he saw Prodi Vice Admiral talking on the phone with Sengoku. In fact, Prodi has a phone bug here. If Sengoku wants to find him, just make a call. The reason why Sengoku wants Luo Shu to send the letter is mainly because he wants to send Luo Shu promoted. Sengoku is very sure of Luo Shu's strength. In the beginning, he actually wanted to give Luo Shu a major. The ensign was just a prefix. After all, Luo Shu is considered to be the recruit from the world, so he is asking for the price and paying it back on the spot. But who knows, Luo Shu recognized it all at once, and he didn't care about ensign. Originally, Sengoku thought that Luo Shu recognized this title because of lack of strength, but when he learned that Luo Shu suppressed the extra charge, he was thinking how to promote Luo Shu. Sengoku is not stupid. If such a strong man does not confess generously from high-ranking officials, would he be forced out of Marine? Are you kidding me? But if Luo Shu was just recruited, it would be nice to say, give a major, give a vice admiral, and give it. But the problem is that Luo Shu is now a member of the system, so he wants to promote him. You have to follow the rules within the system. This is the biggest difference between a state-owned enterprise and a private enterprise. If the boss of a private enterprise sees a cleaning job, he can also directly turn him into a CEO, but a state-owned enterprise, even if you have the strength and ability, you have to queue up for mixed qualifications or stand up. What kind of gong, find a reason, can promote you? Marine is like that, so he sent Luo Shu specially to deliver this letter. Originally, what he thought was Luo Shu. Come over and send a letter, and then go back. This is considered meritorious. If nothing else, just go around in New World. Mentioning a lieutenant colonel, or even a colonel, can be considered a cause. But who would have thought, Luo Shu came and beat Cracker in the end. Destroy the 8 battleships of the anti-pirates and defeat one of the 4 desert stars. Well, Luo Shu would be simmering in the naval headquarters. This would cause a big deal. And Prodi is now talking to Sengoku about this. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku also started to think about it. Originally, he was going to find someone who could brush his reputation from the head, but now it seems that he is doing very well. This news can be released for a while, and Luo Shu's reputation will not be a problem at that time. As Luo Shu cleaned up the room he was going to live in tonight, newspaper offices all over the sea had already begun to move. Their front-page headlines are about Luo Shu. Shocked, Captain Marine singled out 4 emperors admiral and destroyed 8 enemy warships. 4 emperors are just paper tigers, and the 4 stars under his suites are not as good as Captain Marine. Close double-angle bracket. My Marine Captain Luo Shu, yesterday defeated one of the 4 desert stars of the Ant Pirates and destroyed 8 battleships. A title similar to this one swept the whole world almost instantly on the second day. Almost everyone who reads newspapers in the world knows that there is a man named Luo Shu, and he defeated the desert 4 stars of the Ant Pirates. The reaction of all parties to this news is also very strange. There is no reaction from the 4 Seas, because they don't even know who the Ant is, and they don't even know the things in the Grand Line, and the people in the first half of the Grand Line. In fact, I don't know what happened. Except for the people on the top of the Grand Line, there are too few people who know who the Anti and the Desert 4 stars are, so this does not prevent a lot of pirates from blowing up, and they can kill the Ant and the like, but after the news spread in New World, the atmosphere became a little weird. Because of this person, no one knows who Charlotte Linlin is, and no one knows who Charlotte Cracker is. Father, Daddy, you read today's newspaper. On a huge pirate ship, a huge man was sitting on the plate armor. There were many female nurses beside him. He was monitoring his physical condition, and at this moment, a man who seemed to be unable to wake up and had a yellow hair ran over quickly. Yes, this is one of the most famous 4 emperors on the sea. It is known as the strongest man in the world. The flagship of the Whitebeard Pirates, the flagship of the Whitebeard Pirates where Edward Newgate is located, is on the Moby Dick. The fond guy is the captain of the Whitebeard Pirate group, Marco the Phoenix. In addition to Marco, the captains of the other divisions are also here at this time. The 2nd Division's Firefist Portgas D'Ace, the 3rd Division's Diamond Joes, the 4th Division's Sachi, the 5th Division team's Foil Bista, 6th team's Bramonk, 7th team's Rockweo, 8th team's Namur, 9th team's Blenheim, 10th team's Coulier and the 11th squad's Jin Guduo. Hearing Marco's words, these people all looked at him, their eyes full of curiosity. Daddy, there's an amazing guy on Marine. As Marco handed the papers to Whitebeard, Whitebeard smiled contemptuously. Can you compare to an eagle-eyed swordsman? Raising his eyebrows, Whitebeard threw the newspaper in his hand to the ground. Daddy doesn't believe in Marine's propaganda. Looking at the newspapers on the ground, Foil Vista was the first to step forward and use his sword to pick up a newspaper with the positive print on it. It was Luo Shu's face. As a swordsman, Vista had always wanted to challenge Hawkeye. No, Marine won't lie about it. The woman Charlotte Linlin is not a puppet, but even if it is true, what about it? Labor and management is Whitebeard. Whitebeard laughed at what Vista said. Hearing Whitebeard's puffy laughter, the others also laughed. The same scene took place on a small island not far from Whitebeard's headquarters, and here was the red-haired Shanks who saw the newspaper. He didn't care about the sudden emergence of Luo Shu, but what he cared about was Marine's slogan, a master comparable to an eagle eye. Hee hee, it seems that Mahawk should be unable to sit still this time. Little ones, prepare the wine and food, we have a banquet in the evening. Then he threw the newspaper aside, and the one-armed Shanks couldn't help laughing. For him, you can see your friends eating and holding back, which is a very happy thing, just as he thought. Hawkeye, who was still resting in his hometown, saw the newspaper sent by his baboons, his eyes became more and more sharp. He really wanted to see how strong this man who was advertised by Marine as being similar to his own combat power was. At the center of the storm, the Ants pirate group, the atmosphere at this time was a little weird. After Cracker's defeat yesterday, he was rescued by his murlocs. Although devil fruits capable people cannot survive in the sea, fortunately, he still has a biscuit armor, which allows him to temporarily move in the sea and will not be drowned. It was precisely because of this that he survived, and was rescued by his murlocs back to Toto Land, which is the world, but after returning, the atmosphere was obviously a little weird, and he just eased a little bit, was passed over by the ant this morning. Cracker, my son, I want to know if this is true. Sitting in her seat, Charlotte Linlin said with a ferocious expression looking at Cracker who was kneeling there and shaking constantly. Mom, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with that person, his strength is really. Hearing Charlotte Linlin's words, Cracker's mixed body trembled even more. You just need to answer me, yes or no. But before Cracker finished speaking, Charlotte Linlin had interrupted him and said with an angry face. Yes. Yes. Cracker stammered when he heard her. Trash. After hearing what Cracker said, Charlotte Linlin had already kicked his face with one leg, and the huge impact kicked him out directly. When he landed, he had fainted and was present. All of them lowered their heads, completely afraid to speak. You guys, who is going to bring this kid's head back to me? Squinting her eyes, Charlotte Linlin said with a big grin. Mom, let me go. Hearing Charlotte Linlin's words, a tall woman walked out from the side and said respectfully. Smokey, I hope you won't disappoint me. Looking at this tall woman, Charlotte Linlin squinted her eyes and said quietly, and when she heard her, the woman also knelt on one knee with a face. He bowed his head respectfully. At this time, Luo Shu didn't know that so many things had happened outside. After giving the letter to Prodi Vice Admiral tomorrow, Luo Shu went back to rest and had a meal on the boat in the evening, and he also knew the origin of the naval battle yesterday. In fact, the four emperors are fully aware of such things as being monitored. Maybe it was to avoid trouble, or in New World, they really didn't put Marine in their eyes, they actually ignored Marine surveillance. However, despite ignoring them, no one wants to be monitored after all, so they will always have nothing to do. They will get a vote of people to beat these surveillance ships. They will not really destroy the surveillance ships, unless they are ready to cooperate with Marine. Get started. For example, before the Battle of the Top, Whitebeard destroyed all surveillance ships. But before reaching this point, they would not directly destroy these surveillance ships. This is why Luo Shu wondered why there was no battle yesterday. But no matter what it is, if I ran into it, it must be shot. After yesterday's battle, Luo Shu has a more subjective awareness of his own strength. At this time, his combat power is roughly equivalent to the strength of the 4 general stars under the 4 emperors. It should not be difficult for him to defeat these people, but it is almost impossible to kill the opponent. And if he is now against the 4 emperors or admiral, he probably won't be the opponent, but if he is against vice admiral, it shouldn't be a big problem. Luo Shu has some general understanding of himself, and the people on the surveillance ship, looking at Luo Shu's gaze at this time, to be honest, they are very excited. They are not less angry with the ant pirates in normal times, and the appearance of Luo Shu undoubtedly made them exhale. To be honest, monitoring the people on the ship, I really hope that Luo Shu can stay. But they also know that this is impossible. After Luo Shu stayed on the boat for one night, early the next morning, after he had breakfast, he was called by Prodi. Luo Shu Ensign, I was really grateful for your help yesterday. I told Sengoku yesterday about you. It is estimated that you should be able to get a colonel to play with. Watching Luo Shu come over, Pluo D said with a smile. To be honest, Prodi has always been known for being unsmiling here. But at Luo Shu, he laughed naturally, because for them, facing a super rising star like Luo Shu, he still prefers. I don't care too much about this, but if the salary can be increased more, it will be good. Hearing Prote's words, Luo Shu also smiled and said, "Ha ha ha ha, indeed, Ensign's salary is too low." Hearing Luo Shu's words, Prote also laughed. "By the way, when you and Cracker were fighting yesterday, your saber seemed to be broken, right? I have a knife here, so I can give it to you." After joking with Luo Shu, Prote suddenly said the wind turned, and then he waved to his deputy. Not long after, his deputy took out a knife and handed it to Luo Shu's hand. Prote Vice Admiral, this, not so good. Looking at the weapon in front of him, Luo Shu originally just wanted to take a saber when he was walking, but now he looks at the knife that Prote gave him. Does not seem to be an ordinary thing. "It's okay. Garp and I are old friends. You were brought into Marine by him. I will treat you as his nephew. This knife was originally obtained by accident, so I will treat it as a meeting gift for you." At Luo Shu's words, Prote smiled and waved, and said indifferently. Hearing what Prote said, Luo Shu thought for a while, but did not untangle, because he knew that this was an action that Prote showed to him. Luo Shu hadn't thought about betraying Marine or what it was like, since an old man seemed to show his favor, and it doesn't matter if he holds it. He is not a so-called stunner. He understands that sometimes friendships come from this way, so when he thought of this, he took it directly. This knife. As he took the knife out and took a look, a cold light flashed across the knife. Although Luo Shu didn't specialize in knives, after all, he had been in Isshin Dojo for 2 years. Zoro played with his words of peace all day long, so Luo Shu was considered to have seen it before. Although this knife is not as good as the words of Hidao, it is also much stronger than the average fine steel knife. This is Liang Kue Dao 50 skills. It is inferior in writing than Hidao Yi, but it is much stronger than other knives. Then it is only possible to have Liang Kue Dao 50 skills, because Hidao Yi writing is Big Kue Dao 211 workers, the only ones in between are at this level. Sure enough, the knife is called Feiyu, and the knife is light and fast. I will give it to you now. Seeing Luo Shu's gaze, Prote said with a smile. Yes. Hearing Prote's words, Luo Shu also took the knife back with excitement, and said respectfully, even though he would not be bought by a knife. But if at the beginning, Luo Shu's respect for Prote was only because he was Vice Admiral, then there is really some respect that does not belong to the superiors and subordinates. Okay, you have a good rest. After lunch, I will ask them to replenish your boat, take a good rest, and go back tomorrow. Seeing Luo Shu accept the weapon, Prote laughed too. Let's talk about it. And Luo Shu also saluted him for the first time, and then left here. Seeing Luo Shu's back, Prote nodded in satisfaction, and the friendship was closed. On the next day on the boat, Luo Shu did not rest, but practiced finger pistol all the time. Although his fingers were broken these days, it was really troublesome, but he felt it was broken. By the time I was about to practice finger pistol. As long as he has practiced finger pistol, he can come into contact with the return of life, and at the same time he can start to study the problems of observation hockey and armament hockey. In this way, one day passed when Luo Shu was practicing finger pistol. After Luo Shu had breakfast the next morning, he left again. Sitting in his boat, along the way he came, headed towards naval headquarters. But he didn't realize that after he left, a person on the surveillance ship had quietly pressed a button. In fact, not only Marine is monitoring the 4 emperors, but the people of the 4 emperors have also penetrated into Marine. For example, on this monitoring ship, there are nails that the ant has put on it. Just 2 hours after Luo Shu left, several ships in Wengguo slowly left the port and drove in the direction Luo Shu was heading. But Luo Shu doesn't know this at this time. He is still practicing finger pistol on the boat. Sailing on the boat is really boring, especially since Luo Shu doesn't need to replenish ingredients, and secondly, he doesn't need to adjust the route. He only needs to deal with the bad weather here. Fortunately, he is an IT programmer himself. He is perfectly competent for boring, machine-based work. So although he spends almost every day these days, he does not feel bored. Maybe ordinary people may want vent out once a week, hang out and so on. But he might go out to play once a month or 2 months. He didn't care about it. Before he knew it, the sky gradually darkened. After Luo Shu fixed the rudder handle of the boat, he slept in the only room of the boat. This is the driving room and the lounge. Fortunately, the space is not small. Unknowingly, it was late in the night, and Luo Shu did not notice that several boats with a skull with red lips on it were slowly approaching, not far away at this time. Fire! As the voice of a woman on the main ship rang out, these ships released the cannonballs they had aimed at for the first time, and slammed them directly towards Luo Shu's ship, and the sound of the breaking wind, also Luo Shu who was in the cabin was awakened instantly. When he jumped up and landed on the plate armor with a shaver, in his eyes, countless cannonballs were hitting him directly. Tempest kick Lianghua. No need to say anything. Luo Shu looked at these shells and sent out Tempest kick directly. In an instant, countless slashes flew towards the ship's surroundings. Those shells that were still in the air were big. Part was divided into two halves, either directly exploded or fell into the sea, but some shells exploded around the boat. In an instant, the monstrous waves made the boat extremely bumpy, even Luo Shu felt a little unstable. Just as he was about to use moonwalk to escape to the sky, suddenly a slash hit him directly from a distance. Come over. Slash. Luo Shu, who was in midair, didn't panic when he saw the flying slash. If he said to play slash, then he would be the strongest person in the world, their ancestor. Holding the Feiyu in his right hand, Luo Shu drew hard, and instantly with Feiyu withdrawing, a slash that hit the sky and slashed towards the slash in front of him. Although they are both slashing, when the two meet, the judgment is made. Only seeing that slash, there was almost no strength to fight back. It was instantly split into pieces by Luo Shu's slash and dissipated in the world, while Luo Shu's slash directly rushed over. Sure enough, very strong. At this moment, the woman standing on the bow of the ship who was still holding a sword-swinging posture, saw the scene in front of her, her expression a little surprised. To be honest, she is not a pure swordsman, because she still has devil fruit, but her swordsmanship is at the top of the ant pirates. Among the masters of swordsmanship in this world, she thinks she absolutely ranks in the top 10. Although she has some short-sightedness, her strength is indeed not bad. As a great swordsman, she is not even worse than Foil Bistar. But he never thought that his slash would one day be defeated so easily. My lord, the slash is coming soon. But now, it is not the time to be in a daze. Seeing that a huge slash is about to strike, one of his subordinates said in a flustered manner. Hearing what this subordinate said, the woman jumped up from the plate armor abruptly. Then the big sword in his hand was swung again, and another sword aura was thrown out. After this sword aura hit Luo Shu's sword aura, although he also resisted it, it was also broken in less than 2 seconds. But this woman did not retreat, but directly greeted her. This woman's body and long sword turned into a dark color at this time. This means that armament hockey is fully open. The long sword covered with armament hockey directly hit Luo Shu's slashing one. Go up, and then heard a loud bang. This woman was directly flew out by the slashing bullet, and the armed color on her body even appeared cracks, and that slashing, there was no more motivation to go forward, and with a crisp sound, it dissipated in the world. Seeing the woman flying out, everyone under her immediately ran to the place where she flew out and forcibly took her down, but unfortunately the force was still too great. Even if there were more than a dozen people as the back cushion, the woman was still slid on the ground for tens of meters by the blow, breaking the fence behind her all the time. I have to admit that this woman's life is very big. She did not fall into the sea, but at the last moment, she forcibly used her height of more than 4 meters to grab the stern. Although she was fine, but those who acted as the back cushion were miserable, and many people fell into the sea, but this was not the time for her to blame herself. After she turned on the boat, the jealous look on her face was indeed it is getting thicker. In purely slashing terms, he was defeated, and there was no chance of losing. But she has some doubts. Why didn't Luo Shu launch a second slash after this slash? Since she came to chase Luo Shu, naturally, she had heard Cracker's evaluation of Luo Shu and his situation before that. She knows that Luo Shu is not the kind of chivalrous person, but he is the kind of person who likes to suffer from falling water dogs. After Cracker withstood one of his own slashes, he directly released 5 more shots and destroyed Cracker's fleet. Then it represents his physical strength, enough for him to perform many slashes, but now why he didn't perform a second slash? This woman didn't know. It wasn't Luo Shu who pitied him, he didn't have this gene at all, and it wasn't that he was physically weak, it was simply because he couldn't see where these boats were. Luo Shu doesn't know how to observation hockey, and he's so immortal, it's still yin days. The sky and the sea are completely dark, and you can't see anything. When the opponent doesn't attack him, he can't even judge the opponent's position by the way the shells come. This is very embarrassing, so although he has plenty of energy and strength, he can't see the opponent, which is really troublesome. After thinking about it, Luo Shu also knows that it is not the time to consider these things. After he got back into the cab, he also turned off the lights, and then directly filled the sail while using another kind of power. He ran away first. After dawn, he will teach these people how to write dead words. No, he wants to run. At this time, she was studying why Luo Shu didn't attack her. She also learned about Luo Shu's situation through observation hockey. She found that the ship was moving forward at a very fast speed. In the past, if Luo Shu is not guilty, why should he run? Since he wants to run, he must chase after him. Directly ordered, several warships quickly chased Luo Shu's ship. But Luo Shu's boat is really fast. Marine's cutting-edge technology is not just for fun. Not to mention that the ant has not cooperated with the Vinsmoke family. Even if they cooperated, they may not have played Marine's technology. So when Luo Shu Yishan wanted to escape, these ships couldn't catch up. Just when the woman felt that this matter was a bit tricky, suddenly a figure appeared in her observation hockey. She hadn't noticed this figure before. Now that she has found it, it means that the other person's experience and color should be he is better than himself, because he has always been in the detection range of his own vision. At this time, this figure appeared directly at the location where Luo Shu had escaped, and the woman looked at this figure and couldn't help but laugh, because it seemed to her that Luo Shu should be doomed again. Because of this, she is very familiar with someone who is better than her. Under the observation of her observation hockey, the man suddenly secreted a large amount of mucus from his body. In fact, it was glutinous rice that was beaten and spread directly on the surface of the sea, toward Luo Shu, who was rushing forward. The boat rushed over. At this time, Luo Shu didn't know what was ahead. He drove the boat directly and rushed into the glutinous slurry. The glutinous slurry entangled the propellers for the first time, causing Luo Shu's boat to slow down, and then slowly covered on the hull of the ship, causing the entire ship to be glued to the surface of the sea, and at this time, the ships behind were also killed. What the hell? Luo Shu roared loudly after smashing the rudder. To be honest, he really doesn't like to fight against each other when he can't see it, but now it seems that he has no choice, and the boat he likes so much may be over today. What's the matter? If it wasn't for your mother's worry that you would not be able to complete the task, and specifically asked me to come over and take a look, you would let him run away. Just as Luo Shu was helplessly stopped by the slurry on the surface of the sea, far away a man with red hair walked towards the warships that were parked on the periphery of the slurry not far away. As he arrived, the woman who had just used the slash also jumped off the boat. Kata Curry, although it is not very good to say that, but I still want to tell you, this guy is very strong, very strong, very strong. Hearing Kata Curry's words, a trace of the woman's face flashed with a serious expression. After repeated confirmation, he said confidently, "These two people are not others, they are two of the 4 desert stars of Big Mom Pirate Group. They are the same as Cracker defeated by Luo Shu, but they are stronger than Cracker. The female is called Charlotte Smoky, and the male is called Charlotte Kata Curry. Among them, Kata Curry developed the experience of seeing, hearing and color into the existence of ultimate, with a bounty of 1.057 billion. It is also the highest bounty among the characters in the original book. Of course, bounty and strength are not equated, but bounty actually proves from one side, whether this person is strong or not. As soon as he appeared now, it seemed that Luo Shu was in trouble. Because his boat was caused by the mud, it couldn't run away. Leave it to me next." Seeing Smokey's scared expression, Kata Curry turned his head and said slowly, "Don't look at Kata Curry like this, but in fact, he is one of the few good guys in the Big Mom Pirates. Of course, this good guy needs to be quoted. He is only good to people in his own family. He is Charlotte Linlin's second son, but he is very good to all his younger siblings, so he is loved by these people in the family. No, let's go together." Hearing Kata Curry's words, Smokey shook his head and walked forward. Why, are you afraid that I will take the credit for it? Hearing Smokey's words, Katakuri made a rare joke that was not funny. Hey, I'm afraid that after you lose, the slime here will disappear and let him escape in time. Hearing what Katakuri said, Smokey chuckled, then said. Hearing that Smokey once again emphasized the power of Luo Shu, Katakuri couldn't help but looked at the ship not far away in doubt, and then walked slowly over. But when the two of them were about to walk to the boat, they suddenly roared, and a group of flames emerged from the boat. Then the flames instantly expanded and swallowed the boat directly. In the surprised eyes of these two people, Luo Shu walked out of the boat with a torch in one hand and his sword in the other. In fact, he knew just now that his boat could not be kept. Although he liked this boat very much, he couldn't fight in the dark, and his boat was used as the opponent's target. If it sinks directly, it would be better to let yourself light it, at least you can see the outside situation clearly by its firelight. Sure enough, as the flames rose, the light from the boat also illuminates the situation nearby. Luo Shu squinted his eyes, and he saw a few warships parked in the distance. And around my boat, there is a thick layer of things like glutinous rice syrup. You have eaten rice cakes or cold cakes. This glutinous rice syrup is this kind of thing. It's sticky, like a big nose, everywhere around it. The reason why Luo Shu's boat gets stuck here is because of these things. At this time, two people were standing on top of these things. A big man, almost 5 meters tall, with red hair, looks like being stitched up on his face, wearing a cool dress, and standing there. And beside him, there is a woman who is not much shorter than him. The bronze skin of the woman is quite good, but from the aura of her body, we know that this guy is definitely not a good cake. It looks like you attacked me. Looking at these two people, Luo Shu then threw the torch aside, and then pressed his hand on Feiyu. Today, you have to die. Looking at Luo Shu, Katakuri said with calm eyes, and after confirming their identities, Luo Shu was already lazy to talk nonsense with them, stepped on his feet and instantly used moonwalk. Leaving his boat, and using the shave in the air, suddenly the flow around him slowed down. Luo Shu's figure also came to the man's side almost instantly. Looking at the man, Luo Shu's knife was also pulled out. Draw a sword. After all, he burned his most beloved boat. Luo Shu is in a bad mood now, so he is not ready to practice tricks at all, but directly uses the strongest skill, draws a sword. With a smooth flash, this slash slashed directly towards Katakuri, but at this moment, Katakuri suddenly changed into another appearance, his body directly softened. Originally a strong man who was 5 meters tall, Luo Shu struck him at a position of about 3 meters. But at this moment, he suddenly became a pool of slime, and he just changed his height from 5 meters to more than 2 meters, evading Luo Shu's blow. What? Seeing that the other party dodges his attack, to be honest, Luo Shu didn't expect it, and couldn't help but froze for a moment. At this moment, the slime on this person's body suddenly appeared in large numbers, directly entangled on Luo Shu's body. At this moment, Smokey next to him also moved, and the big sword in his hand instantly slashed towards Luo Shu. Feeling the forbidden force from his body, Luo Shu's face changed. Iron body. But this does not mean that he was going to grab it with his hands. His body hardened in an instant, directly holding the opponent's big sword, and when the opponent's sword hit Luo Shu's body, there was a burst of golden iron. With the sound of Ming, a counter-shock force was directly transmitted to Smokey. With this blow, she almost felt that she could not hold the sword in her hand. Luo Shu's iron body is also level 99, and the 95% damage reduction is too strong. Just relying on defense, Luo Shu bounced Smokey's big sword directly, and then he looked at Katakuri next to him. The flying rain in his hand suddenly slashed towards the slime under him. Katakuri obviously knew that Luo Shu was going to do this for a long time. It instantly turned into a humanoid. With a flick of the right leg, the slime turned into a leg, and it was extremely dark. This is Armament Hockey. With the blessing of Armament Hockey's attack directly kicked Luo Shu away. But at this time Luo Shu is still in the state of iron body. This blow did not hurt him, but it is inevitable to be kicked. After Luo Shu turned around in the air, he wanted to fall on the mud, but when his feet touched the mud, he felt a strong adhesive force, which was constantly devouring him. Two people can move freely on the slurry, there should be some secret recipe. But Luo Shu can't. If he really falls down, he will be directly trapped in the slurry like his boat. Of course, he does not think that he will really be immobile like a boat, but it always takes time to break free. If a master makes a move and wastes an extra second, he may pay the price of blood, let alone break free. More than 1 second when available. So at the moment this feeling emerged, Luo Shu's other leg was stepped hard, Moonwalk used it again, and before it sank, he forcibly broke away from the mud under his feet, and flew into the air again. Looking at Katakuri and Smokey in the distance, Luo Shu flicked his feet in the air, and in an instant, countless Tempest Kick immediately rushed towards these two. Looking at the slashes from these kicks, the two looked at each other, and then behind Takakuri, a large amount of slime was secreted suddenly, and the slime turned into a hand. Armament hockey, painted black on top, gleamed with a different light. Seeing these slashes in front of him, he struck them directly, and Smokey was not idle, and also wielded a big sword, constantly neutralizing Luo Shu's slashing. But Luo Shu's trick was mainly to take a breath. When Tempest Kick was almost flat, Luo Shu also regained his center of gravity in the air. Shaving and Moonwalk combined again, and Luo Shu suddenly killed them, passed. This time his goal was still Katakuri, but this time, he remembered what Proteus men had told him about Katakuri. This guy seems to be about to reach ultimate. Unless he can't foresee the situation that disturbs him with his sights, sounds and colors, it will be too difficult to hit him, at least the most powerful slash will not work. But Luo Shu has other skills besides drawing a knife. For example, basic swordsmanship. Yes, Katakuri is very strong. He can dodge Luo Shu's attack, but if he finds a way to make him unable to dodge, then what else can he do? There is only one way to get out of the way, and that is a large-scale attack. Luo Shu thought so, and did the same. The flying rain in his hand suddenly pulled out and threw a slash directly at Katakuri in the air. Katakuri here just smashed the slashes of the Tempest Kick, and saw a huge slash, and was killing him directly at this time. Seeing this scene, Zitakuli really had no way to escape. Although he foresaw this move, he had just solved Tempest Kick's slash. At this time, there was no time to use the shave to escape this move. Since you can't get out of the way, you can only do it recklessly. As Katakuri's right hand flicked backwards, it was instantly like Luffy's third gear like a gun. A huge fist appeared behind him, and at the same time it was covered with a thick armament hockey, looking forward. He also yelled for the slash that came, and his right hand directly smashed up, but at the moment he smashed it up, he felt that the situation was not good. Because of the strength of this blow, something beyond his imagination. The armament hockey, which was originally covering his right hand, had a crack at this moment. This was the pre-photograph of the collapse. After seeing this scene, Smokey here, after solving her Tempest Kick, directly rushed. Going over, want to help Katakuri. But at this time Luo Shu can see it, how could he allow this blow to fail? So he only saw him stepping on a moonwalk again in the air, and after stabilizing his position, he immediately released two slashes. Two slashes, one was directed at Smokey, the other was directed at Katakuri. Seeing this slash, Smurray had to pull back the center of gravity and concentrate on Luo Shu's slash, while Katakuri looked at the flying slash, his pupils really dilated in an instant. Above this slash, I felt a strong breath of death. He knew that it was not the time to hesitate or hide privately. His breath suddenly changed. A piece of viscous paste beside him instantly turned into a donut and appeared in the air, and then his left hand pulled instantly open. After the pitch-black armament hockey was perfectly covered, his left hand continuously turned, and then violently passed through the middle of the donut, and smashed towards that slash. This move is already Katakuri's strongest move. It is the strongest single attack skill he has since awakening. It is called Wily Nyangao. The left hand that hits like a drill directly hit Luo Shu second. Above the slash that Dao threw over. Suddenly, a squeaking sound was heard, and the flames gradually faded. I have to admit that Katakuri's skill is very strong, but Luo Shu's basic swordsmanship is stronger. Don't forget, Luo Shu's trick is troublesome even if Garp takes it with all his strength. What's more, it's just Katakuri. If it's Charlotte Linlin, it might be okay, but Katakuri is still a bit worse. After receiving the slash, Katakuri, who wanted to defeat the slash, found sadly that with his strength, he could only barely hold the slash, and directly cut the slash in his imagination. The shattered picture did not appear, and it seemed that it would never appear. If he was given sufficient time and preparation, he would not be a problem to defeat this slash. After all, even Cracker could be defeated, but the situation is that Luo Shu did not give him enough time. Don't get me wrong, Luo Shu didn't let it go anymore. Slash, because although the above is lively, but in fact, it was only a few seconds. Between the lightning and the fire, the first breakthrough was the slash that Luo Shu first released. Originally, it was quite difficult for him to block this slash with his right hand, but now his attention is now on his left hand, so the armament hockey with his right hand is broken. It is only a matter of time. With a creaking sound, Katakuri's face really became extremely ugly. He felt that his right hand could not hold it, just as he was about to withdraw his right hand, because his attention shifted to the relationship between his right hand, his left hand slashed one step further. Just when Katakuri felt a little bit burnt, Luo Shu's fourth and fifth slashes smashed out again, one for Smokey and one for Katakuri. Seeing the slashes flying over, Smokey was really frightened. She was troublesome to deal with one slash, let alone two, so she could only cover armament hockey on her sword, and suddenly as soon as he tried hard, then he didn't even need the sword. A lazy donkey rolled and flashed to the side, and the slash also arrived at this time. With a slight difference, Smokey flashed the second slash attack. But that long hair was cut off by nearly half, but compared to Fate, the hair is actually nothing. But her sword was unlucky. She was carrying that slashing sword. At this time, she was hit by two slashes. The quality of this sword was really terrifying. It was not broken, but it was directly affected by these two slashes. The slash flew out, a bright light flashed across the sky, and the sword completely disappeared. And Smoggy without a sword is extremely embarrassed at this time, because although she is also a devil fruit capable person, most of her abilities are on this sword. Now that the sword is gone, then she too it's no different from a waste. Especially when facing Luo Shu. At this time, she was already considering the issue of retreat, but her co-position, her second brother Charlotte Katakuri, fell into despair at this time. When both his left and right hands were about to collapse, Luo Shu's third slash in the middle directly killed him. Watching the slashing closer and closer, Katakuri was desperate, but in an instant he took this the desperation came out of his mind. Ah! With Katakuri's roar, a powerful force suddenly spread around him, centering on him. Katakuri's strength is very strong. In addition to his grandmaster physical skills, his fruit ability has also been awakened, and his conqueror's hockey has also reached a very high level. I won't say much about seeing and hearing color, he can even foresee the future. Armed color covering the whole body is just the basis. In addition, his conqueror's hockey is also extremely powerful. His conqueror's hockey can already cause physical damage to everything around him. As this powerful hockey swept around, the first thing to bear was Luo Shu's three slashes. The power of the three slashes was very strong, but the first two were indeed consumed by Katakuri. Less, especially on the left-hand side. So as Conqueror's hockey burst out suddenly, a crack appeared in the slash on the left-hand side, and then when Katakuri pressed hard, the slash on the left hand was instantly shattered, and Katakuri's left hand also moved. When he got to his right hand, he used both the awakening skills and conquerors at the same time, and once again smashed Luo Shu's second slash. But unfortunately, he had no chance for the third way. Although he tried his best to pretend to be elemental, the glutinous fruit is not Logia, it is Paramesha, but it can also be pretended to be elemental. Although this was attacked by Conqueror's hockey, however, there was not much slashing to consume, and at the moment of his elementalization, he flashed directly from the pile of slime. As the slash disappeared, Katakuri's body also condensed again, but at this time, there was a huge scar on his Hun's mouth. At the moment when he condensed the entity, his wound spewed out a lot of blood in an instant. This move was enough to cause him to be severely injured to the extent of almost decombat. Katakuri. Seeing Katakuri's miserable appearance, Smokey yelled and rushed over. At this moment, Katakuri suddenly stretched out his hand without any relief at all. The meaning of directly pointed his hand at Smokey not far away, and instantly the slime under Smokey's body directly wrapped her into a ball, and instantly sank into the bottom of the sea, and he was also glued at the same time the pulp wrapped up, and then sank directly. But at this moment, two slashes struck. Yes, the observation hockey, saved their lives again, but Katakuri slowed down because of helping Smokey. After 2 slashes, there was nothing on Smokey's side but a pool of blood was left on Katakuri's side, but the absence of his corpse meant that there was no fatal injury. It is possible that this guy was pseudo-elementalized again at the last moment, dodging a fatal attack, and Luo Shu was really going crazy when he saw this scene. Kicked down countless Tempest kick fiercely, Tempest kick directly cut through the unowned mud, exposing the sea below, but when Luo Shu got into the sea, he was extremely depressed and found that nothing was visible on the sea. I can see a woolen thread in the sea. Those 2 guys already knew where the sinking was. Looking at the dark seabed, Luo Shu was out of breath. After jumping out of the sea with Moonwalk, Luo Shu looked at the big mom pirate boats that were about to flee in the distance and waved Feiyu directly. After passing, several slashes appeared in an instant. These boats did not have the ability to withstand Luo Shu's slash. In an instant, these boats were all cut into 2 pieces and slowly sank into the ocean. Listening to the calls for help from the pirates before they died, Luo Shu didn't make any movements. He just landed on a wooden board and looked at the sea with a deep expression on his face. Bad son, ah. After a long while, Luo Shu slashed a dozen slashes on the sea like a vent. He didn't stop until he felt a little tired. I got down, panting heavily, and looked at the sea surface in front of me that had long been fragmented. At this time, above the sea surface, there were floating corpses, wood chips, and Luo Shu's boat that was about to burn out. Thinking that in order to deal with these 2 guys, he even burned the boat. Luo Shu felt a little panicked, too aggrieved. In fact, as far as Luo Shu's current strength is concerned, except for the top-notch people, he is not ashamed of him. The dessert is 4 stars, let alone 2. Even if it comes to 4, he is not surprised. He has fought before, but the problem now is that although he has fought, he can't kill these people, although now he feels that he is still in the category of Shuangwen. But he can't always kill people. What the hell is this? He didn't show mercy when dealing with these people, or didn't want to destroy the original idea. Since Luo Shu is here, even though he has never thought that he has the protagonist's fate, for example, he never believes in things like turning evil into auspiciousness or making breakthroughs in battle, but since he is here, then he must have it. If he disturbs the world, he has a good time. So just now, he didn't keep his hands, he really wanted to kill Katakuri and Smokey. But he didn't kill it, which is uncomfortable. This time he came out, but he suffered a lot without the loss of observation hockey. Next time if I don't practice seeing and hearing beauty, I won't come out. Luo Shu and Katakuri, plus the remains of the battle between Smuji, were not discovered by a merchant ship until the 5th day, and they told Marine about the news. Then the Marineg 5 branch immediately sent a ship to check and determined that this place should be left after the battle between Luo Shu, who returned to the voyage, and Katakuri, the head of the 4 generals of the Ant Pirate group. But in this battle, no one knows who loses and who wins. In fact, the members of the Ant Pirates do know, because Katakuri and Smokey have been rescued 3 days ago. Their most dangerous moment, Shennet entered the water, and then was swept into other sea areas by the turbulence of the deep sea. After staying in the sea for 2 days, it emerged and was rescued by people on a small island, but now they are recovering from their injuries and the Ant Pirates will not report this shameful news. There are 4 dessert stars, there are 3. A loser in the hands of an ensign, is there any more embarrassing news than this? When Marine began to search for Luo Shu's traces, Luo Shu was embarrassed floating on the sea, watching the endless sea around him. Luo Shu was also embarrassed at this time. As for why he didn't wait in place, there was a reason. Because people in this world, although their physical fitness is much stronger than those on Earth. But if you don't drink water for 3 days and eat for 7 days, you will be finished. At least Luo Shu thinks so. He is not sure if he stays where he is, whether it is the ant or Marine. If it is Marine, there is nothing to say, but if it is the ant, it will be troublesome. It is not a wise move to carry on with the ant when he is not in the state, so he finally packed up his things. After that, he left. He took some of the water he picked back. These are the most important thing. There is a lot of food in the sea. In his eyes, Sea Kings is just a dish. But there is very little water. You count on New World to reign in this changeable day. That is really too much of a character, and Luo Shu has never believed in his character. In this way, Luo Shu sat on a board that was not too small and floated like this for 5 days. Originally, his idea was to find an island to stay, but the facts proved that his life was indeed bad. After 5 days of floating, he didn't even see a piece of soil. The only advantage is that during the 5 days of floating, Luo Shu can concentrate on practicing finger pistol. Finally, on the morning of the 5th day, his finger pistol practice was over. Ding! Congratulations to the player for completing the training and acquiring the skill, finger pistol. Looking at the dialog box that popped up in front of him, Luo Shu calmly clicked into the skill. There is nothing to say, just start adding it up. Finger pistol, LV1, one of the 6 styles, is a technique known as the power of a gun to fire bullets. It gathers the power of the whole body on the index finger and releases a blow between the hardened fingers of the electric light flint. The power is comparable to ordinary pistols. Single quote. Finger pistol, LV99, one of the 6 styles, gathers on the index finger with the power of the whole body, and attacks with hardened fingers in the air. The power is comparable to a specially made sniper rifle. Single quote. Seeing the introduction of finger pistol after level 99, Luo Shu was stunned for a moment, and then he started experimenting with great interest. Sure enough, his finger pistol is different from the normal finger pistol. His finger pistol can be launched, no matter whether it's Qijin or something else, it can indeed be launched. And he also tried it deliberately, and the launch distance was about 100 meters, which was considered a middle distance. Speaking of Luo Shu, there is really no middle range technique. His Tempest kick and slash at long range are extremely sharp, and his slash at close range, after learning observation hockey, he will evolve to an incomprehensible 1 degree. However, there is really no way to attack in the middle distance. Although Luo Shu doesn't care about finger pistol's attack power, he does not deny that with a new attack method, Luo Shu is still very happy, especially this one. The attack method is still very strange. For example, if he wants to fight with someone in the future, he can stay far away. Others think he is going to swear, but in fact his finger pistol has already passed. As if getting a fun toy, Luo Shu was so happy to fight on the sea, and his surprise was far from coming. At about noon, as Luo Shu fully mastered finger pistol's power, a dialog box popped up in front of him again. Ding! Congratulations to the players familiar with the advanced skills of Master 6, Auto Master 6, and Life Return. Looking at the system prompt, Luo Shu was stunned for a moment, and then immediately opened the skill interface with excitement. Sure enough, there are many more. A skill came out. Life Return, LV1, 6 forms advanced skills, a skill that is learned by the great 6 forms of physical skills. You only need to pour your consciousness into it, and you can control any part of your body. Looking at the introduction of the Return of Life, Luo Shu knows that CP9's Master Cuddle and the headquarters of Vice Admiral Ghost Spiders, they are all good at returning life. However, the Return of Life at this level is still at the first level. Luo Shu knows that this trick has great potential, so Luo Shu directly started adding skill points. Sure enough, as the level of Life Return increases, different levels have different situations. Life Return, LV30, 6 advanced skills, can perfectly control any part of the body. Single quote. Life Return, LV50, 6 advanced skills, can perfectly control many parts of the body. Single quote. Return of Life, LV80, 6 advanced skills, you can control yourself perfectly. Single quote. Life Return, LV99, 6 advanced skills, can perfectly control the cells in the body. Single quote. In other words, those who return their lives below LV30 are just controlling themselves. Those who are above 30 and below 50 can control areas that they could not otherwise control. For example, they can control their hair to become a hand. And if it is above 50 and below 80, you can control the hair to become many hands and so on. Those above 80 have just begun to control overdraft of their lives and quickly recover from injuries. For example, Garp, they are all of this level. As for the highest level 99, it is another level, which can perfectly control his own cells, which means that as long as he does not die instantly, even if his internal organs are removed, his hands are broken, and his lungs are pierced, he can control his own cell regeneration and grow one again, in another sense, immortality. Let me go, does this skill still have such an effect? Looking at the skill panel, Luo Shu exclaimed excitedly, knowing that before that, he thought that the return of life would only cure an injury. You can prevent yourself from directly fighting to death, but now it seems that no matter how weak the skill is, it will be terrifying when it reaches the full level. And Luo Shu's good support may not be over yet. When he closed the skill panel, he suddenly found that on the sea not far away, it seemed that a small black spot was coming. Ship. Looking at the small black spot in the distance, Luo Shu took a closer look. When he saw that it was really a boat, Luo Shu couldn't help but laugh with excitement. He doesn't know what is going on today. How can you be so lucky? Seeing this, he also prepared for a while, and then rowed this small plank towards the direction of the boat. As Luo Shu ran to the other side of the boat, the people on the boat also saw Luo Shu. Boss, in the sea ahead, a person is paddling a plank of wood. On the watchtower, a person dressed as a pirate called out to a person on the lower panel. Someone. Hearing this person's words, the boss also took the telescope handed over by a person next to him, and looked towards the sea level. When he saw that there was indeed only one person, his face couldn't help showing a trace of contempt. He was really alone. Boss, are we going to run the boat and run over or sink him? Seeing the playful look on the boss's face, a dogleg next to him said with a toothless smile. No, don't forget, what do we do now? Look at that person's clothes, it seems to be marine. Do you think those adults would be interested in a marine? Hearing this dog-legged words, the boss revealed Zui's big yellow teeth, and then said with a smile on Yin's side. Hearing what the boss said, everyone else laughed. Boss, if Marine knows about this, first guess Marine will be furious. After smiling, a pirate approached with a smirk and raised his eyebrows. Ha 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 ha, I just want them to jump like thunder. What's the matter? The labor and management who used to chase are running everywhere. Who is behind us now? It's Joker, it's Celestial Dragons. I just want to sell Marine. Let me see what Marine is capable of. Come on, let's welcome our new prey. Hearing what the little brother said, the boss laughed more excitedly. As soon as his words fell, the little brother at the helm there already turned the steering wheel and drove in the direction Luo Shu was. Because the two sides were driving opposite each other, Luo Shu was not far from the boat very quickly, but when he came near the man's boat, he felt that the boat had something weird. This ship is a new ship. It is very big. It looks more like a merchant ship than a battleship. There are not too many artillery on the ship, and the flag on the top of the ship is actually Celestial Dragons. This made Luo Shu feel a little weird, and when he came to the side of the boat, he realized that the boat was really wrong. The ship is divided into 5 floors: upper, upper middle, middle, and lower. Except for the uppermost deck, all other floors have iron windows. They are not glass windows, but iron windows like prisons. I hadn't noticed what I had just left. As soon as he came over, Luo Shu smelled a strong smell of blood, rancidity, and excrement, which obviously made his brows frown. Just as he was thinking about what the ship was carrying, a ladder was thrown down from the ship. Luo Shu raised his head and looked at the people on the ship against the sun. He felt some bad feelings in his heart, but now he must get on the boat. So he still climbed the ladder and climbed towards the boat. Nothing happened, but when Luo Shu was about to climb onto the boat, the 2 people who had been standing next to the ladder directly took out 2 iron traps from behind, and put them directly on Luo Shu's head. Passed. Seeing this scene, Luo Shu didn't say a word, and when he fell back, he had already left their attack range. At the same time, with his hands a little bit, the newly learned finger pistol set off. Puff puff. 2 times, the gun finger was silent, but finger pistol beat their heads with a voice. As the 2 people's heads were beaten, their bodies also softened. Luo Shu had already jumped out of the range of the ladder at this time, but he did not fall, but a moonwalk, so he jumped directly and turned onto the boat. Dare to kill my little brother and kill him. When Luo Shu landed on the ship, the boss on the deck also sat up and shouted. The little brothers under him turned towards Luo Shu for the first time. Just killed it directly. Tempest kick. Seeing these people rushing over with knives and guns, Luo Shu's eyes flashed cold. He remembered someone saying that murderers must have the consciousness of being killed. Therefore, he will not be merciful to anyone who dares to attack him. Looking at these people, Luo Shu's right leg flicked, and instantly a slash was directly thrown out. The slash that Luo Shu's Tempest Kick threw out was not as sharp, powerful, and far-reaching as the sword slash, but it was better than the speed. These people haven't had time to react yet. The Tempest Kick slash has already hit them, and then the first, second, third, fourth. Tempest Kick can fly about 2,500 meters, it must be longer than this, Captain, and Luo Shu's Tempest Kick kicked out, then this road is really bloody. As more than 20 people were cut in half by this Tempest Kick, the other pirates were a little panicked. After all, they were pirates who mixed with New World. Marine 6 styles, they know very well that someone who can learn something must be at the general level at least, and now that this person's Tempest Kick is so strong, it means that this person's strength and level are definitely not ordinary. Marine can be compared. Thinking of this, the pace of these people slowed down, no one wanted to die, even if it was them, and the captain over there also turned his eyes at this time, and then smiled and walked over. Misunderstanding, 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 this Marine brother, just now are all misunderstandings, we just want to confirm your identity, we are all a family after all. Looking at Luo Shu, this man smiled at him. Said. Misunderstanding. I think when you killed me just now, it didn't seem to be a misunderstanding. Looking around vigilantly, Luo Shu's eyes narrowed. Since he is trying to kill him, it is not a misunderstanding that can be solved. Seeing Luo Shu's murderous look, this man couldn't help but shake his heart. In fact, this guy said he was a New World player, but he was not too strong. He was not even their supernova of that year. After arriving in New World, he was defeated in the first battle, and then saved by the people of Joker. It took him a few years to operate before he took his current position. I saw Luo Shu. The Tempest Kick he knew, such a person can't do it hard. And looking at Luo Shu's murderous expression now, this person immediately mentioned his patron. It's really a misunderstanding, Brother Marine, we also work for the world government. My ship is a slave ship, dedicated to transporting slaves to celestial dragons. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.